was a monumental game for A&M and Tampa. It was a monumental game. Somebody had to lose, and thank God it was them this time.
We knew it was going to be a battle. Look at Jake Gaither's record. 202 and 36, I think, some off-the-wall figures.
And nobody would play him because they didn't want to take a chance of getting beat. But the truth of it is,
over 46,000 tickets. Blacks were sitting in the east stands. Whites were sitting in the west stands, and the score wound up 34-28.
The only thing we proved that we wasn't inferior, that we were not inferior, and we were not afraid.
For one night, for 160 minutes, we was better than them.
Follow the Black College Sports Network and all of our shows on YouTube. You can find us at MyJBN Online and on all social media at MyBCSN1.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the BCSN SportsWrap. Brian Fulford and AD Drew here, and we got another jam-packed show. AD, how you doing, my man?
Doing fine, my brother. Doing fine. How's everything been going for you?
Staying busy as always. Staying busy, super busy. Can't complain. Nobody will care. Not these days. So look, man, we've got a lot of things going on in HBCU news. Very busy weekend, surprisingly. I mean, this continues to be a very interesting time period that we're dealing with right now, just from the standpoint of the act that happens every weekend between the games. We seem to be cycling through, championships. But, I mean, just the activity. What are your thoughts on just the activity that you've seen right now in the HBCU sports landscape?
I feel sorry for all the sports information directors out there.
Oh, okay. I was like, what?
Because trying to keep up with baseball, softball, tennis, track, football, volleyball, bowling, golf, what other, soccer, what other sports am I missing right now? Because I'm just got done with basketball, depending on your school, and I mean it's been a handful trying to keep up this weekend. And Brian, earlier this week we debuted a new show on the Black College Sports Network, through the permission of the HBCU Pro Sports Media Association, called Knights of the Round Table. We sent out the show.
I kind of heard about that show. I think I heard about that.
Well, we sent out the show script Sunday morning with the topics that we were going to cover and the order of the topics and all that stuff. Come 1 o'clock Sunday, before our debut show, we had to throw the show script out of the window and redo it. Thanks to the school that I almost went to, Tennessee State.
Yeah. Oh, so did you guys end up getting that story covered?
That was the lead story on the show. And go check it out. It's here on the Black College Sports Network. Also was simulcast to the BCSN SportsWrap page on Facebook, and we even simulcasted to Dr. Kaviv's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab page.
Right. Again, that's the HBCU Pro Sports Media Association, for anybody out there who listens to our show and maybe other shows, you maybe started hearing about it a little bit. And if you are a journalist, a writer, a photographer, graphic designer, an editor,
writer.
I think I said writer, but whatever. Yeah, if you do anything from a journalist media perspective, and you cover HBCUs or you cover professional sports, I mean, this is a networking group that I think you want to be a part of.
I also forgot to mention that the show is on the HBCU Pro Sports Media's website. Also,
right.
Google it, HBCU Pro Sports Media, and you can find the show on its website. And not only can you find the show, but you can find a lot of HBCU content from all the writers and contributors to this organization.
Right. Yeah. So that continues to grow, and it will grow. And I look forward to more involvement and more opportunities that come from that. And in the end, it will end up growing the HBCU brand. And so before we kind of get into some of the hot topics and make mention in this show, we've got not only our opening segment here, but we've got a couple of interviews that Drew did. I got an interview that I did. Drew actually had a chance to talk with a pair of baseball coaches. Our upcoming Music City Diamond Classic will be in Nashville, Tennessee. Drew and I will be broadcasting that game between Tuskegee University and Lane College. So Drew had a chance to talk to Tuskegee head coach Reginald Hollins and Lane coach Patrick Barbour, excuse me. And so that conversation, on top of my conversation that I had with Miss Keisha Kelley from Black College Experience. And so we've got that in this show, plus this opening segment. So, I mean, this is a pretty jam-packed show. This will probably be we'll try to keep this and make this the shortest segment of the entire show. That's our goal here as we get ready to do a rapid fire through a couple of different topics.
I had practice with rapid fire doing the Knights of the Round Table earlier this week, so I'm ready. I need you to step your game up today now.
Look, I'm the one that's got to step my game up today. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Very, very good. Nice shot. So look, let me start with the plugs. Obviously, if you're watching this, you see them on the screen. Follow us on social media: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at MyBCSN1, the number one. That's where you can find us. Make sure you follow us. Make sure to go to our website, mybcsn.net. And that is where you can find not only our streams for our broadcast, you can also stay up to date on everything that your HBCU is doing. We've got all the conferences and programs covered and some exclusive articles. Our most recent article, give a shout out to Jamie Walker, who actually was at the HBCU football combine, which we'll just kind of mention here coming up in a moment. He was there. Keisha Kelley was also there. Those were at least the main two that I saw that were there in Birmingham. Well, this was the inaugural year. This thing was supposed to happen last year. Obviously got shut down due to COVID. They actually had it this year. So Jamie did a great job with the recap and report on some of the guys that had a good weekend. He interviewed several guys, and so that is on our website, mybcsn.net. You can also find our postseason basketball awards, which thank you to everybody for the likes, retweets, the all the love. I think we saw I think all of the players and coaches, we saw commentary from most, if not all of them. You can recap and see our All-American teams, Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, National Champions. So that's all there as well. So we want to encourage you to go to mybcsn.net. On YouTube, if you're watching us on YouTube, please make sure to like and subscribe the Jericho Broadcast Network's page. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're watching us on Facebook. And then, of course, make sure you download that Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Go to Google, Apple Play Store, MyJBN, MyBCSN is where you can find it. Get the alerts anytime that we send something or post something out. And then, of course, that cup of coffee. You know, we appreciate the support. Anytime you got a few buckets, a few dollars, ducats rather, that you can share, a cup of coffee is what I like to call it. Go to mybcsn.com/support. That's mybcsn.com/support. All right, Drew, rapid fire. We got a ton of stuff we want to get to. Let me start with the weekend that was, because it was a busy weekend. So we'll start with SWAC football. Busy weekend. I feel like the SWAC is taking full advantage of everything that is happening right now in the spring. And you know, it's interesting how right now, this past weekend, finally Alabama A&M gets a chance to get on the field after being out for 4 or 5 weeks. Is that where
5 weeks? Yeah,
since they played South Carolina State, since they went out to South Carolina State in Orangeburg and played those guys.
And that game wasn't even scheduled.
You're right. That was a game that was added because they just dealt with team after just everybody that they were supposed to play had issues, COVID-related issues, and God bless A&M for not even having any issues. But anyway, they finally get a chance to play Jackson State. There was a little bit of talk, some interesting talk before the game.
No Edward Waters on that schedule.
Yeah.
No Edward Waters on that schedule.
No, not at all. And they took it to him, man. I think the line was 3.5. The over/under was 50 something. Both of them sailed over. I mean, A&M won by 52 to 43 or 52 to 42, something like that. You know, the over went flying over by about 3 or 4 touchdowns. So kudos to everybody. You know, I know a guy who put on the over. I mean, he was happy. I know another guy was disappointed.
I know somebody who went with the under and he was not.
Oh, yeah. I know a guy who wished he would have played the live total when it was 77, but he did not. So anyway, so what's your take? What's your take on what Alabama did, man? Quill Glass just went ham. 6 touchdowns. Actually had a total of 7 because he rushed for 1. His career day, 440 passing yards. You know, his previous career day was against Jackson State. You know, I'm expecting some memes to start coming out like "Who's your daddy" memes right now. You know, I feel like that's what Quill Glass is. He's moving into that kind of what do you call it? The Tiger King. You know, that might be Quill's new name. What's your thoughts on what Alabama A&M did to Jackson State?
First of all, shout out to Quill Glass, who's from Bryan. I know you like to claim all your Indiana people, but Quill Glass is from my hometown of St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay.
From Lutheran North High School, which is a private school, probably about class 2A, 3A. They've kind of shuffled back and forth in those classes over the years, but has been a football powerhouse in the state of Missouri since I was in high school. And I've been out of high school 30 years, and they were a powerhouse then. So for 35 years, they have been a powerhouse in high school football. But Quill Glass did not come out of that school as a passing quarterback. He was primarily a rush first quarterback who had an arm who could throw. What I have seen from him over these couple of years is amazing. When you think about Alabama A&M, I, along with a lot of people, said, yeah, they're 1-0, but on paper, they were good coming into the season. But we needed to see something else. One game where everybody else has played 4, 5, even 6 games in. How were they going to fare? And I'm going to be honest with you, Bryan. I was like, okay, Jackson State is going to get off to the typical fast start that they've been able to get off to. A&M was going to get off to a slow start due to the COVID layoff. And I thought Jackson State was going to win. I figured A&M would win the third quarter, but I figured A&M would not have the legs in the fourth quarter because of this long layoff. Boy, was I wrong. So A&M looked every bit of the preseason A&M that we thought we were going to see this year.
Well, they did have a slow start, Drew. I think they didn't score on their second and third possession offensively, if I'm not mistaken.
But once they figured it out,
yeah, that was about it. That was about it. After that,
and you saw some of those early timing issues.
Yes,
where
this guy by
just off the fingertips, or
right.
The ball was just overthrown by a little bit, or just underthrown by just a hair. And once they were able to get that game speed, that game rhythm going, boy, a clear glass. And Bryan, I threw this out on Nights and Roundtable earlier this week, especially with the Queer Glass coming back for another year. Does Queer Glass have the potential to be the best quarterback in the SWAC since Steve McNair?
I told you last year, I thought he was the MVP of the year. Now, I know, I know the young man from Alcorn State. Sadly, I hate to do this, I've already forgotten his name. That's how not playing hurts you. I'm sitting here while you're talking. I'm trying to flash forward through all the names, and I can't think of his name right now, and I apologize. But that Alcorn State has fallen out of the mind, and so has he. But I thought he was the player of the year. The only problem was the Alabama A&M defense. If they would have held on to 2 of the 4 games that they lost, their record would have been better, and those would have been wins. Who knows? A&M might have actually got to the SWAC title game, and you would have been thinking of Aquil Glass as the MVP. Instead, you were thinking about the quarterback from Alcorn, who, look, his story in itself, coming off the bench almost out of nowhere in many people's eyes and doing what he did, was certainly spectacular. But I'll say this, I'll go one further. Aquil Glass is going to be the first HBCU quarterback drafted since who?
Tavares Jackson.
Since Tavares Jackson, yes.
Alabama State.
I'm making a bold prediction. In the 2022 draft, Aquil Glass will be drafted. And I'm going to go as far as saying, Drew, I think it'll be before or in round 5. I'm saying in the first 5 rounds, he'll be drafted as a quarterback.
The way if he continues to play at what we saw last year and progress to this year and even progress even further last year, he's at least a day 2 pick, Bryan.
Yeah, which, I mean, day 2 is rounds
2, 3, 4.
2, 3, 4. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, he's got the size. Look, he's got a great size and build. I think he's like 6'4", 230 something. I thought the young man from Prairie View who ended up, I think Jalen Morton. Now, I really liked Morton a year ago. I just think what he got hurt by was he didn't get this HBCU combine, which was held this past weekend. He was supposed to go to that, but he didn't. He didn't get a chance to be a part of that. But he did get a walk-on, or not a walk-on, but a
free agent.
Free agent.
Yeah, UFA
Packers, and then I think somebody else picked him up this past year. So he's still in the league, in the circles. So
somebody's practice squad.
Yeah. What this comes from out of the SWAC. The SWAC, 52 points that Alabama and A&M put on Jackson State was the most that Jackson State gave up against a D1 opponent since giving up 58 to Mississippi Valley State back in 2008. That happened. And so, look, talk about this for a second, Drew. The exposure you see now against Jackson State now, because all eyes have been on Jackson State in prime time, yes?
Yes.
You saw what Alabama State did. You saw Ezra Gray have a big day, 190 and 3 touchdowns. Then you saw Southern have a big day, and I think that defensive player may have got on the radar with some people. Southern had a big day, and that game was on ESPN. Now, here's Aquil Glass. That game again. I mean, so look, Jackson State, you know, it's funny. There was a quote by Dion, Coach Prime, that, you know, this whole thing about the exposure that's coming because of Jackson State is true. And jokingly on Twitter, I've called ESPN now has become, I don't know which one I'm going to stick with. ESPN has become either JSU Prime or ESPN Primetime. It one of the two. I don't know which one sticks better. But that the attention and the focus is because of Dion. Let's keep it real. But other people are reaping the rewards, and it's Alabama State, Southern, Alabama A&M, 3 straight losses by Jackson State. And here we are moving into a big week for the SWAC, where you've got the Bayou Classic, you've got the Magic City Classic. And how about this? Maybe the best game is the one that is really not a classic, and that's UAPB versus Prairie View A&M.
Yes.
That's all coming this weekend.
Right. And if Southern is going to get back into the race, if anybody is going to take the SWAC championship game away from the city of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Prairie View has to beat UAPB this Saturday. That will put Southern and UAPB in a tie, with UAPB still have only the tie break due to the head-to-head. But now that puts all the pressure on UAPB the next week. On paper, they should beat Valley on paper. But once again, this is the SWAC, and Valley has improved every week since they came back off of their COVID layoff. So who's to say that Valley cannot beat UAPB, especially if they come off that loss for Prairie View? And what a more victory for Prairie View, who's ineligible for the SWAC championship game. But just because we're not getting there, let me best it up for y'all too.
Right. Yeah.
And let's be real. No offense, Prairie View. No offense, UAPB, Golden Lions. But everybody else around the SWAC would much rather travel to either New Orleans, Montgomery, or Huntsville for the championship game. Let's just go ahead and get it out there. If you're not a Golden Lions fan, that's what it is.
Look, I've never been to Pine Bluff, so I'd be okay with going. That's Drew, ladies and gentlemen, at BCSN Drew. He's the one that doesn't want to go to Pine Bluff.
Hey, I said the same thing about Lorman, Mississippi last year. So
you did, yes, you did, you did. So I'm sure those same people will be like, Drew, you're a hater. You only want to go to big cities.
Well, South it's a lot easier to catch Southwest too, though. But you can't catch Southwest to Little Rock, but you still got to drive for about another 45, 50 minutes.
Good point. So that's this weekend SWAC schedule. Hopefully 4 games will play. The other game, Mississippi Valley at Texas Southern, who quietly Mississippi Valley has not looked bad. They've been competitive. They looked competitive in a half against Jackson State, maybe even 3 quarters. They looked competitive for a half against, who was it they played the following week? Somebody else they looked competitive against. Was it Grambling? No, maybe not. But they've had 3 games.
They played State also.
They played State. That was this past weekend, where they looked competitive. I'm just saying that Valley has looked competitive. I think people thought Valley was going to be a walkover. The
Valley of old.
The Valley that we're used to over the last several years. But they're starting to play a whole lot better, let's just say, than expectations. So they play at Texas Southern. I got to mention one thing from the HBCU Combine, Drew, because I found it as I was putting together Jamie's article on the website, mybcsn.net/blog is where you can go and find that article. Jimmy Robinson from Bethune-Cookman. I mean, we're very familiar with the damage that Jimmy Robinson can inflict upon your program. Trust me, we've seen it happen in his entire time spent at Bethune-Cookman. But my man went out and ran a 4.28 in the 40-yard dash, which put him second nationally among all college athletes in the 2021 College Pro Day / NFL Combine season. Let me say 200ths. That's 2 decimal places. 200ths of a second behind Anthony Schwartz of Auburn, who ran a 4.26. Robinson ran a 4.28. Behind him, Rondale Moore from Purdue and Eric Stokes of Georgia, who both ran a 4.29. And then Shai Smith, I don't know, she or Shy, from South Carolina, ran a 4.33. So that's pretty damn impressive by Jimmy Robinson. And speed, man. There's got to be an opportunity for speed in the NFL.
Yes.
I mean, he made a name for himself as a wide receiver and a punt returner. Got to be a place for speed in the NFL.
The worst thing that happened to him is he makes special teams. They put him out there and they make him a gunner on punts.
Oh God, they wouldn't make him a gunner, would they?
With that kind of speed, yes, they would.
Okay. Some of the other names that Jamie brought out: Solomon Muhammad, who was a standout linebacker. I think he was even a defensive player of the year at Alcorn. Calvin Lunkins of Southern. The linebackers from Morgan State, Rico Kennedy, Ian McBurrow. One of those guys, I think, was a defensive player of the year, or at least he was a preseason defensive player of the year, maybe. Tristan Wallace, wide receiver from Prairie View, did real well. Michael Johnson, the offensive lineman from Savannah State, might have made him some money. There's an opportunity where he may end up getting drafted. How about Deshaun Waller, the running back from Alcorn State? Did a great job, according to Jamie. Hunter Register. I slept on this kid, this young man from Southern. But if you go and look at his YouTube link and some of the videos, he's 6'4", 210, ran a 4.44. Okay. But when you watch the video, Drew, of the catches and this kid has a frame. I mean, he mossed a couple DBs, makes some great catches. I was really impressed by his film. And so it'll be interesting to see if a guy like Register can catch on late day 3, maybe late day 2. But that's that combine. Look, all 32 teams from the NFL showed up. So scouts had an opportunity to see guys firsthand. So nobody can use excuses going into the draft because you had to change.
So you think we get more than one drafted this year and more than 7 overall signed?
Is that how many signed?
I think it was. I think there was 7 UDFA contracts and 1 drafted.
I'm gonna go as far and say I would set the line at 2.5 or 3.5. I'm
on the draft.
I'm thinking at least 3 get drafted this year.
What and how many?
The undrafted
UDFAs
guys.
Maybe 10, 12.
10 was the number I was thinking. But and look, the one good thing about this upcoming year, CFL's coming back.
Potentially.
You have the XFL coming out a year later.
Potentially, but CFL's going through some serious, still going through some serious financial things. Matter of fact, about a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, they sent a letter out to their players telling them basically don't quit your day job until we get everything figured out up here, especially with COVID and financing. CFL's really dealing with a double whammy. Which may be one of the reasons why they're talking this merger with the XFL, but there are so many differences in the 2 games right now, 3 downs versus 4 downs. 120 yards versus 110 yards versus 100 yards, 25-yard end zone versus a 10-yard end zone. And once somebody finally tells me how you score a rouge in CFL, then maybe I can help you along.
And I guess the whole thing with Canada, I thought about this. Their sports teams are playing here in North America, right?
The NHL is Canadian only. They are not crossing the border into the U.S. They will not do that until potential playoff time. Right.
But the Blue Jays.
But the Blue Jays are playing down in Dunedin, Florida.
Right.
The Raptors are playing in Tampa, Florida.
Right.
So I believe that's everything right now.
Yeah, that's everything. Yeah. Wow. All right. Let's keep it moving here. Big story that we can't not talk about. Eddie George becomes the 22nd head coach of Tennessee State University. So this story started creeping out, Sunday morning, right before Tennessee State's first or last game, I should say. What are your thoughts just on the there's some interesting things that I read later. So I some of my initial reactions about how it came out, I wasn't happy about as I saw what was coming out. But then I read the article on Monday in the Tennessean, which kind of gave a little background about when all of this took place. And so what was your initial thoughts as you started to see this news come out, Drew, and the way you saw this going down? What were your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts was this reeked of Earl Holmes.
Ah, yes.
That was my initial thought. A born and bred Tennessee State Tiger,
All-American,
who's your coach, All-American, who's done everything that they can do with the program as a player.
And you're talking about Rod Reed. You're talking about Rod Reed.
I'm talking about Rod Reed. Yes, as a player, as a coach, et cetera, et cetera. Now you fired him. You've already got your coach. You've already got somebody in place, and then to find out that you told him pretty much at the beginning of the season, this was it.
Yeah, see, that's the kind of stuff that comes out after the fact that we come to find out he really wasn't fired. His contract just wasn't renewed.
Yes.
I mean, he was on the last year of his contract.
And we were going to be moving on. Right.
You had a new AD coming in. A new AD came in, Dr. Mickey. No, did I get his name right? Mickey Allen, I think it was.
Allen.
Yeah, that's the name. And I apologize if I messed his name up. I had that in the back of my head, but he came in June of 2020. And so, like you said, if they let it be known to Coach Reed that, hey, this is going to be it. I don't know if he had an opportunity to do anything to change their minds and maybe winning, but that's challenging in itself in a COVID year, right? So, and especially was going to be a rebuild because he didn't have his quarterback. He lost an All-American wide receiver, challenges galore. But anyway, that whole story starts coming out. But anyway, you mentioned that he was notified several months prior to. The story came out that it was final the Saturday night. I think he even let the team know Saturday night that this was going to be his last game. And so that's where I guess all the reports started finally officially coming out that Eddie George was going to be the head coach. And what coaching experience does Eddie George have? Zero, zilch, nada. Yes, he's a Heisman Trophy winner. Yes, he's an All-American. Yes, he's an All-Pro.
Yes, he's a Broadway actor.
Yes, he's a You didn't even let me get in the Hall of Fame. You just went right to the Broadway acting, as if that diminishes his credentials.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I'm just throwing it out there. Also.
I got you. So yeah, I mean, look, so what? And then you listen to the press conference, and go listen to it on at TSU Athletics. It's on YouTube. It sounded like the AD for Tennessee State had actually had to do some convincing, talking into to let him know that, you know, hey, you can be successful. You don't have to move. You don't have to uproot your family because you're in Nashville. We're in Nashville. So really, you know, you're just talking. And then to hear the thought process that Eddie George had to go through. Here's a guy who never thought about coaching. He's running his businesses. He's running what else, Drew? You mentioned the Broadway stuff, right? What do you even know the name of the play that he was in?
Not at all.
So he's got all of these other ventures going on, and somehow you're going to find time, or he says he's going to find time to be the coach. This is the most ambitious thing I have seen done. If you thought what Jackson State did with Deion was ambitious, it really wasn't, because Deion
wanted to coach.
He wanted to, and he had been a coach. Yeah, that's the key word. He wanted to coach. He had been coaching almost a decade prior to coming to Jackson State. This, though, this is ambitious on a whole new level. This is the equivalent of you, Drew, saying, hey, ESPN, I want to host First Take. I can do it, you know, or somebody from the check that. That's like you, a producer, coming to you and say, Drew, I've seen you on this show with this other guy on the SportsWrap. You're a star, man. You're a star. I want you to come be on First Take. And Drew's like, I don't know. I don't know if I can do First Take. I mean, that's pretty, you know, I don't. And then you got all your people in your ear saying, nah, Drew, you can do it. You can debate with Stephen A, man. Come on now. You're smart enough. You can do it. You've never been in a debate. You know, you've debated before, Drew. All those years at FAMU and Tuskegee, you've debated. Come on, Block, you can do it. And that's what this feels like. And I'm just I'm poking fun at you, but I mean, that's what it feels like. Can you recall anything this ambitious in Black college sports?
Not in Black college sports, but you know, they said the same. They said the same thing about Steve Kerr. They've said the same thing about Steve Nash.
Look, I think, okay, but Steve Kerr was
he was an executive before he became a coach.
He was an executive, but he was also doing play-by-play. I just think that
what about your Derek Fishers and your Jason Kidds?
Am I crazy? Look, I know the game of basketball. You know the game of basketball. Am I crazy enough to tell you that I honestly think basketball is less complicated than football? I think on a scale of sports, I think baseball and basketball are the least complicated to manage and coach than pro football and college football.
But first of all, just on the sheer number of people that you have to deal with in football.
And maybe that's why, yeah, exactly. The number of moving parts that go into, I don't know the businesses that Eddie George runs, but this feels like somebody all of a sudden where you've only been a manager of a department. Somebody's now asked you to be the CEO of a multi-million-dollar global company. That's what this is the equivalent of.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to take this one step further, and I'm going to kind of spin this a different way, Brian. Right. You know, I've talked to a couple of coaching friends of mine, collegiate coaches, and some of them have been upset with the Deion hiring and now the Eddie George hiring.
Right.
Not at them as a as a person,
right,
but of the process.
Sure.
You know, they paid their dues.
Right.
They've played at HBCUs. Some of them have even been GAs at HBCUs, grad assistants, who don't know what a GA is. Done time as assistant coach, and some have made it to head coaches. Some have not made it to that head coaching circle. So, they're saying that all I had to do was play in the league and have a name, and now I get jobs thrown at me like that, and don't even have to go through the process.
Yeah.
Not only do I not have to go through the process, but I don't even understand what the process is.
No, you know what? This is the pretty girl. This is the pretty girl. I don't know where Drew's going, but anyway. You all right? Oh, get some water.
My throat dry.
Live on the air. I love it.
It's either that or I keep coughing on you.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. Look, this is the pretty girl syndrome. This is what it's like to be the pretty girl. If you are the attractive pretty girl, you are Eddie George. You are the All-American Hall of Famer.
I'm gonna take you to prom. Just don't open your mouth.
Well, yeah, but this is what your guys who are complaining. This is that privilege that pretty people get. We jokingly talk about that, but this is real. This is the privilege that the beautiful people get. This is the privilege that celebrities get. And so guys like me, you might think you're more handsome than me. So fine, I'm just going to stick to me. But we're those of us who coach and we're not a name. Yeah, you guess what? Yeah, unfortunately, guys like Eddie George can roll out of the bed. Somebody can choose to want to hire him because they know his visibility and basically headhunt him for 4 or 5 months, it sounded like. And then all of a sudden, now you're the head coach. But Eddie George is going to pull resources now. He's going to go get a Hugh Jackson, allegedly or supposedly. He's going to get Jeff Fisher to be a part of his staff. He's going to get, I've heard people like Ray Lewis. I've heard Rod Woodson. I mean, all
right. Question of the day, Brian, before we move off of this subject.
Yeah.
Southern Heritage Classic 2021. 2 essentially rookie head coaches who've never coached in the Southern Heritage Classic. Yes, they've played in rivalry games. Eddie George, Ohio State, Michigan. Dion with Florida State, Miami, or Florida State, Florida. But this is different. So when they go into that Southern Heritage Classic for the first time with all the pompentry and bands and whistle, we're back at 100% by then, and everything that's around any HBCU Classic. We give them the first one. Second year they beat. Who would there be more pressure on to have produced results? Eddie George or Deion Sanders?
Yeah, I mean, who had the better first year? Who the guy who didn't have the better first year is the guy who goes into that game with more pressure. But I think one thing I will say, I think everybody's playing for 2 different things. What I heard from the press conference is Tennessee State is chasing championships. They're part of a conference, the Ohio Valley, that is eligible to play for a national championship. And they're not looking to move to the SWAC. They're not looking to change their travel. They're not looking to change their brand. They're fine with playing their HBCU non-conference schedule. And then their goal is to go into the Ohio Valley Conference season and try to win and get to the playoffs. That sounded like a clear goal that they have. Now, whether they can do it or not in the next 5 years, I don't know.
And speaking of that, Ohio is speaking of that schedule, just happened to look at Tennessee State's schedule. 4 of their first 5 games next year will be on the road, either neutral site or true road games.
Well, I was going to say how many of those are neutral site and where are those neutral sites at,
Yeah, but 4 of the 5 would be either neutral sites or road games, including the Southern Heritage Classic.
Yeah. I look, it'll be a fascinating watch for Eddie George and to see what happens with Tennessee State. I think two schools doing it for 2 different reasons. And I say doing it, I mean going with the pro athlete route. I think HBCUs will be debated. This is my final thought on Eddie George. I do think we have to be, and I say we, HBCU alums, HBCU media, we have to be more accepting of this time period from outside entities. Remember my old thing. What has my thing always been? Are you doing something for HBCUs or you're doing something with HBCUs, right? Now, Eddie George choosing to come in and coach this team and this program is a definite doing something for Tennessee State, because Tennessee State needs this. They're about to get hit with an influx of cash that's going to change that university. They need to get back on the national landscape. And so, as they said in the presser, football is the face, the doorway, the front step to your university. That's what they hired Eddie George to do. They want to be able to play games in that stadium. Not Hale Stadium. Nissan Stadium. They want to be able to play games in there and have 40, 50,000 people there.
And one other thing, Bryan, Tennessee State's in a very unique situation. They actually had the opportunity to overtake Vanderbilt as the toast of that time. Vanderbilt not being a perennial SEC powerhouse. Now, it'll be tough for them to take over the orange and white down the road. But at least in Nashville, they do have a very realistic opportunity to overtake Vanderbilt as the college football team of Nashville.
They do. Definitely. Be interesting to watch. A couple other nuggets before we get ready to head to the break and our interviews. Drew brought this to my attention, came out recently. Payne College dropping from out of Division II to the NCCAA. And if you're like, the what? Yes, that's the
Christian Association.
2 C's and 2 A's. That's the National Christian College Athletic Association. They've been in the SIAC, which is Division II. How long has Payne been in the D2 or in the SIAC, Drew? Do you recall or know off the top?
Ever since I was associated with the SIAC, I'm trying to look up right now what year they came into the SIAC. But if you continue to talk.
Yeah, one of the things that Payne is doing, and this is a move that I think is designed to, they're doing this sort of around the same time that they're talking about starting a golf program. And apparently they've got they're going to be creating they're going to be working with Augusta National Golf Club. I mean, for those who don't know, Payne College is in Augusta, Georgia, and right there where the Masters is held. So they're working to fund a women's golf program and endowing 2 scholar athletes with scholarships in honor of Lee Elder, who was the first African-American to compete in a Masters tournament, for those of you who didn't know that. And so that's sort of, they're just trying to bring back golf. And I guess the other sports, I had it pulled up here in terms of what some of the other sports were that they have. But, I guess for cost reasons, Payne is an AME run church or run school. So it just seems, okay, here it is right here. The Lions are going to compete in what is the Division I South region in July. They're going to sponsor men and women's basketball, baseball, softball, and volleyball, while also adding men and women's golf in the fall of 2020.
1985, Bryan.
Wow, that's a long time. Long time. I wonder how many, and that's non-football too, right?
They tried football 1 year.
Yeah, they realized.
I want to say about 13 or somewhere up in there.
Yeah, way too much money. So smart move, so what's that do now to the membership totals? I heard you mention this the other day, Drew. What are the membership totals in the SIAC looking like going into July 1?
I believe that's going to put them at 15 now, and I'm on the page. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's going to put them at they're currently 13 with Evan Waters. If Evan Waters comes in, being potentially number 14 in there, and they do not have Allen listed, so they will be at 15.
15.
From a perfect 16 to a odd 15.
Yeah. Well,
now you could get creative with that and break off into 3 5-team divisions.
I was going to say that. That's where you need to be thinking. And that would even probably help your geographic. I mean, we always kind of jokingly talk about the Ohio and Kentucky and Tennessee region, but you could realistically have a region there in the SIAC that included what?
You can put your 5 Georgia schools in one, but you've got an oddball with Evan Waters coming in, because Evan Waters would realistically be playing with the Georgia schools. So if it was me, I'm going Evan Waters, Savannah, the two southern schools in Georgia, Albany State and Fort Valley State, and then I would put Clark in with that group.
Well, wait a minute, but who's in South Carolina? Isn't somebody in South Carolina?
So now you take Allen, Benedict, Morehouse, and then you would probably put those 2 northern schools, Kentucky State.
You didn't have Morehouse in the group of the other Georgia schools.
You're gonna have to split up the two Atlanta schools.
Right. Well, do you have to? I mean, they're the furthest up there. Yeah, you probably would have to.
Unless you put Evan Waters, unless you take Evan Waters, Savannah, along with the 2 South Carolina schools, to just make that I-95 corridor.
Okay, there you go. That's the move.
But you still got to get a number 5.
Well, but who's your 5? You got wait a minute, let's go. The harder 5 is what? That's Lane, Kentucky State, Central State.
The East is going to be the easy / harder, because you're going to have to break it up some way odd.
Wait a minute. Hold on, stop me. Okay, watch this. Lane, Kentucky State, Central State, Morehouse, Clark.
No.
Why not?
No. So what are we doing with you got Spring Hill, Tuskegee, and Miles. Those 3 are your Alabama schools.
You're talking, well,
you put those 3 in with Lamont Owen and possibly Jackson.
No, you put those. No, you put those 3 Alabama schools with those Southern Georgia schools, Albany State and Fort Valley State.
I tell you what, Bryan. Let's come back and let's talk. Let's actually look at this and propose something to the SIAC on our next show.
All right, that's fine. That's good. Another note,
because there are about 4 or 5 different combinations that you could realistically go with. You've got 2 or 3 teams that you could cluster and that you should keep together. It's those other 2 teams that you have to put with that cluster that kind of gets cumbersome.
Right. The other piece of news that recently came out: Morris Brown receiving their accreditation. which means what specifically for athletics, Drew, as you applaud the move that Morris Brown is back. But they lost all those beautiful facilities that they had. But anyway.
So realistically, you're probably talking another 5 to 10 years before we see any type of athletics, probably into NCCAA or NAIA initially, unless they are able to reach some type of agreement with their other brethren there at the AU Center to lease or rent their facilities to get their athletics going. But as far as them themselves, because they either the facilities have run down so far or they have sold off their facilities, it's going to take a serious undertaking. Hey, the fact that they actually qualify for financial aid now is step one. So you're going to need the return of the athletic program to get the enrollment back up. But let's not put the cart before the horse, Bryan. Look, we just got our stimmy pack yesterday. I don't need to go out and buy the big screen today.
But some folks already did, though.
Here's the better one.
No, that's
you just got your stimulus yesterday. You put the down payment on the car today, but you better figure out how you're gonna make that monthly payment.
No, I got you. All right. So you 2 years. Do you think within 2 to 3 years? You said 5, but any chance between 2 to 3 years?
I don't think anything realistic before 25.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. The landscape of college athletics, the way it's been happening, I mean, it can look entirely different in 5 years than what we know of it right now.
Yes.
All right. The last couple of things I think we had mentioned wanting to bring up, while Bethune-Cookman, who obviously made the decision to step away from all athletics, it's cost them 2 basketball coaches. It cost them at the end of May. It cost them their men's coach. The end of March. It cost them Ryan Ritter, who was the men's coach, who had been there for 3 seasons, a record of 4 seasons. He had a record of 48-45. And now he is the head coach at UT Martin. And then most recently, you had Vanessa Blair-Lewis, who is a 4-time MEAC Coach of the Year, led the women's team to a 196-168 record in 13 years. She had 6 winning seasons. I don't think they ever got to the tournament, though. I think they may have won regular. I don't think they ever won the conference tournament. They may have won a couple of regular seasons, but I think they were missing that 1 year. But anyway, she is now the head coach at George Mason. Apparently, she's from that region where George Mason is in Fairfax, Virginia. She's from that area. And so now she's going home, which leaves a void for Bethune-Cookman and their basketball programs, Drew. You got some years left on you. Anybody call you yet? I'm just saying. What about this? We hinted and teased this, and so I'm just gonna start it. Who knows? Somebody may already. A good suitable replacement for Bethune-Cookman. How about the NAIA Coach of the Year?
Charmaine
Wilson. She used to be on the staff at Bethune.
I think that's a good start.
Yeah, she's been at she's been at Edward Waters for a decade now. Just finished year 10, I believe. Look at what she built that program into. I think you're looking for somebody who can continue to build on the success that Blair Lewis created. How about somebody who was there, who worked with her? That would be, Charmaine was there. Coach Wilson was there 7 years prior to taking over Edward Waters. So she very intimately knows that Bethune-Cookman community.
has a relationship with Dr. Thompson, obviously, because Dr. Thompson's been there, forever.
Right, for almost a couple of decades. So yeah, I mean, there's an opportunity. That'll be interesting to see how it plays out over. But who knows? Bethune-Cookman could choose to, I don't know. Lisa Leslie might have an opening or somebody.
Hey, I know a former NBA star who's looking to coach at an HBCU.
Who's looking to coach? I think I know the name that you're thinking of too.
Who is that?
First name starts with a G?
No.
Okay, so see, that's a totally different person then.
Well, throw your name out. I'll throw my name out.
Here we go. On 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. George Lynch. All right. Okay.
Well, now, who was yours again? Since we talked over each other.
George Lynch.
Yeah.
Former Clark Atlanta,
Atlanta coach.
HBCU heroes.
Yeah, and my guy, Wesley Person, who I talk to every now and then. I know he's been trying to get in. He's interviewed where he's thrown his name in the hat at a couple of HBCU. So yeah, well, hey, look, there's a couple names just trying to help you out. But a couple of Rattlers. Don't ever say the Rattlers didn't try to help the Wildcats. AD Thompson. Don't say the Rattlers never try to do anything to help you Wildcats out. We just gave you a couple of coaching candidates. Now you go get them. It's your job to go get them. But we know AD Thompson will come up with a good name there. And it's going to be unique for both of these coaches going into a new conference.
Yes, that's another thing. Yes.
You all that film that you have is garbage now because you actually have, it's going to be tough going into a new conference.
Well, and that also, that might even lead you to hiring somebody who has SWAC ties. There might be an opportunity for maybe an up-and-coming assistant coach or a former coach, maybe a year or two removed, to actually take that position at Bethune-Cookman because of the fact that you're moving into the SWAC. You want some familiarity with that conference you're about to move into? Well, here's a great person to hire who can do that.
Yes.
Any other final nuggets before we take a break and throw it out to these segments with these interviews, Drew?
And I'm going back and checking our messages between each other because we threw so much out to each other. No, I think that's it. I'm going through my other set of show notes right quick, Brian. The only other thing that I want to say is, back in the fall, everybody was talking about will coaches get a pass on this season? When I mean coaches, well, basketball coaches and football coaches.
Right.
And we've seen a number of football and basketball coaches who've been let go despite the challenges of COVID. Basically, if you came into the season on the rocks, this was just like the nail in the coffin, despite the fact the odds were stacked against you.
Right. That's how I felt about Rod Reed going into this year.
Yeah. So, like they say, as long as you turn that scoreboard on, you have to produce results. No matter what the challenges are, what the circumstances are. So, there's been no sympathy with this. And unfortunately, every coach gets hired knowing that they will someday be fired. Very few coaches walk away from the game on their own terms. Yeah. So COVID did not play an exception to that rule thus far.
Right. All right. Well, coming up after this break, you're going to hear Drew's interview with the two coaches that'll make up the opposing sides of the Music City Diamond Classic, which will be in Nashville. We will be broadcasting that. You can find that on the mybcsn.net. And Reginald, Hollins, and Patrick Barbour of Tuskegee and Lane College. And then you'll hear after a couple of breaks, you'll hear my conversation with Keisha Kelley, Black College Experience. We kind of get into her background at Southern, some of the challenges that she's faced in her role, how she deals with, stupidity. But a great conversation. I think she's one of the rising stars in media and really loves helping young people, and so it's really cool. I think you'll enjoy these conversations. So we hope that you stay tuned and listen. Make sure to like and subscribe to us wherever you are. myjbn.com/support is how you can give to this project. Cup of coffee, any little bread helps keep us afloat, keep us moving. And then, of course, make sure you're following us on all social media platforms at MyBCSN1, the number 1. All right, AD Drew, follow him at BCSN Drew. I'm Brian Fulford. Follow me at DRB365. Coming up next after this break, Drew with Reginald Hollins and Patrick Barbour. And then a little bit later, you hear my conversation with Keisha Kelley. Make sure a lot of K's going on there. All right, you're watching and listening to the BCSN Sports Wrap with Bryan and AD. We'll be back right after these words.
I'll holler.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
Welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Joining us today is one of my good friends, and if I would have played baseball, my baseball coach, even though he's younger than me, but still one of the coaches I admire, Coach Reginald Hollins of Tuskegee University. Coach, how's it going today? How are you? How's the family and everybody?
It's going good, Drew. Navigating through this pandemic year, but just glad to be back on the field and, give the guys an opportunity to compete. So it's going good. No complaints on our end.
Speaking of the pandemic year, if you would just kind of tell everybody what was different about the off season this year compared to what you have traditionally done in the past as you got ready for the season and have gotten your team to this point in the season.
I'd say it was tremendously different. I can't speak for all schools because it varied, but for us, it was definitely a trial and error type deal. We spent a lot of time on Zoom calls, group messaging. We weren't able to actively get out on the field. We were able to do maybe a week and a half of weight room because of some COVID restrictions with the university. So it was very difficult, to say the least. So we really had to just kind of be more mentally tough than ever and pick back up in February. That was another issue. We didn't start school until February, and this was an institution decision to protect the students. So normally we come back in off of an off season in the fall and get started in, the early January part of the year. But that was different this year. We didn't get started to February, and we also had a limited game schedule. So just had to really pump no excuses into our guys' heads and, take advantage of what we could do and, try to put together some sort of season with the difficulties that we've had to face. So it's been very unconventional, to say the least. But I'm very proud of my guys for weathering the storm and, not showing a product that resembles what we've been through.
All right. And me knowing you haven't been around the Tuskegee program for the number of years that I was around the program, one of the things you have been a big proponent of is fall ball, fall schedules, and everything like that. How has not playing fall ball and your traditional World Series that you guys play homecoming weekend to engage the alumni, how has that affected you this year?
It's like I said again, it's everyone knows the fall is where you win the championship. That's where the DNA of the team is born. So putting together 30 plus mindsets, that happens in the fall. Making sure everyone moves as one, that happens in the fall. Learning who you are, learning the guy next to you, playing next to you, that happens in the fall. The development piece of it, that happens in the fall because spring is more of a repetition thing and game driven. So it's been very difficult to miss out on those live at bats. We scrimmage a ton in the fall. It just really reinforces some things that we need to work on. It exposes us on some things that we're not very good at the moment. And not having that time, it's almost as if we had to treat the front part of the season as the fall. Just to figure out who we are as a group. No matter how many people are returning, our guys understand that every team each year is different. So you have to have a mindset to understand that even though you have familiar faces, there are going to be a couple of pieces that are different, which may add different energies and different depths and different starters. So we just been really trying to self-correct and figure out who we are as a team on this short-lived season. But it's been very tough. That's why I say I applaud my guys for not making any excuses and then coming out and finding a way to compete and get wins.
Now, you talked about championships, building a schedule, et cetera, et cetera. Well, unfortunately, you guys will not get to compete for a conference championship this year because the SIAC earlier this year made a decision that they will not have championship competitions, not only in baseball, but essentially in any sport.
Absolutely.
For this academic year. Talk about the impact of that and trying to put together a schedule with a lot of teams in the SIAC opting out, a lot of conferences going to conference-only schedules and things like. Just talk about some of those headaches that you have had with that.
It's a lot of back and forth this year. Very disappointing that we weren't able to compete for championships because that's what our guys come here to do. Get an education and win a championship. Those are the ultimate goals. So to have one stripped from you is very disappointing. So I just had to kind of pick my guys up and tell them that, hey, we have something to play for, and what that is pride in ourselves and self-dignity and putting a good product out on the field, no matter what the circumstances are. And they've weathered that storm again. So it's a tough thing, Drew, to be honest, because, you could have a set schedule one weekend and next thing you know, a COVID outbreak happens or, a quarantine situation and you go away and it cancels you for 4 or 5 days with no baseball activity. So it's just been a really difficult year. So I applaud all the teams around the nation that are dealing with this. You're testing 2 and 3 times a week just to get on that field. You have to watch your surroundings even more outside of the baseball field. So it's hats off to these kids around the nation and especially our guys here because it's been very difficult not having an opportunity to compete for a championship for one, and then also having to makeshift your schedule because other teams have opted out or something didn't go as planned for that week of contest. So it's just difficult, man. But life throw you some things. And I tell the guys, we can either learn, and respond from this, or we can, tuck our heads and pout about it. So we chose to learn and respond. And that's one thing that I applaud our guys on doing. They're responding from it.
Now, in a sport like baseball, which is so predicated on rhythm and reputation, I think those are two things that
absolutely
baseball is it. Basketball, if you can shoot, you can pick up the ball, you can go out a day later, get your rhythm back, you can shoot. Football, if you got good footwork, you can run the ball, especially on the defense, you can close to the ball real fast. Baseball is a game probably unlike any other that's based on rhythm and repetition. With all the stops and starts and everything else, how hard is it, especially in this sport, to keep that going and to be able to, to play? Because all it takes is one simple thing: not dropping your butt low enough and getting your glove down on the grass, and now the ball is through the 5-hole, as they like to say. Or
absolutely
that pitch that you would have taken for 400 feet, you just missed it, and now it's 400 feet straight up instead of straight out.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's, man, you're making some great points here. And these are all of the things that we're dealing with this year, because stopping and starting in baseball is tragic. It can be really bad. So what we're just having to do is just really customize our practice plans a little bit more when those situations happen, and try to throw in those live at bats. Because, like you said, it's a rhythm sport and it's a routine sport. So if we're getting out of our routine, it can mess up some things. So we just try to throw in as many reps as possible and some live ABs. Now, whether it's a full out scrimmage or just, pitcher batter matchups, we try to throw in both just to kind of keep some type of rhythm going and, just fight through the circumstances. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. It's hard to, that's why this sport is designed with so many games, because it takes time for you to get your niche and find your rhythm. So without games, on the front half, we've had to go away with almost 25 games this season. Right now, here it is in April, and we're only 16 games in total. Like, that's difficult. That's very difficult. So we just try to do the best that we can with it, find the rhythm pockets that we can, and play good baseball. And that's why I say we overall, through any losses that we've taken this year, we've played decent baseball. It's just been, certain little things that have exposed us that we normally would catch or would have had the opportunity to catch in previous games, but we just didn't have that opportunity this year. So I can't say it enough. I applaud my guys because they fought their butts off. So, we're just going to keep going and trying to keep that rhythm and find those live at bats.
What about your pitchers? Pitchers also have to get their rhythm. they've got to keep their arms loose. Obviously, the more the throwing that they do, the more strength they build up in the arm, the more control that they have, on that curveball. And Lord Jesus, we don't want them to ever lose control on the fastball, and it winds up hurting somebody. So
absolutely,
how have you worked with your pitchers trying to keep that rhythm going where the routine is not the same? You may be throwing every other day or every third day, getting your bullpens in, and because of circumstances, you may not be able to get those bullpens in or the long tosses and stuff like that. So how does it work for your pitchers?
Absolutely, yeah. Just as difficult on those arms. Arm is something that you have to have in shape, daily, whether you're throwing or doing your rehab program or running or whatever it may be. There's a routine that goes with that as well. But hats off to Danny Barnes, my pitching coach, my assistant. He does a great job keeping those guys competitive, even through, the downfall is may not, of not being able to practice some days and, whatever we go through. He keeps a great routine and he challenges those guys to really get out there on their own, whether they can penetrate the facility or not. So the guys are bought into what he's saying and teaching, and it's shown. And we've covered, good space in a small amount of time, and to keep those arms fresh and good for competition. So he's put together a routine for those guys that they can do whether they're with him or without him. And that has helped us.
All right. Now let's get into this Music City Diamond Classic.
Absolutely.
First of all, when I saw this event and where it was located at, I'm gonna be honest with you. I thought this was a lame home game since this was in Tennessee.
Yeah.
I actually looked at the schedule and realized this was a Tuskegee home game.
Absolutely.
So how did they convince you to take a home game and pretty much take a home game on the road, play in their backyards? He said, although Jackson is probably about 2-3 hours from Nashville, but they're close. They're still closer to home than you guys.
Absolutely.
So tell us how this all came about.
Yeah. So hats off to BCSG 360 and Prentice Hill and his team. They're doing a great job at getting exposure for HBCUs in multiple sports, whether it's basketball, football, or baseball. Baseball is really something new for them, and they're really hitting it on the scene. And he presented the opportunity. And once the conference made the decision that they weren't going to allow us to compete for championships, I thought it was a no-brainer. Along with the limited fans that we can have on the campus of Tuskegee University, I thought this would be a great job to put our guys out at a major league facility, give them the right exposures, and also we can honor our seniors. So Coach Patrick Barbour and I just kind of spoke together, and he pitched the deal that, hey, maybe we can honor our seniors. And I said, you know what, Coach, that's a great idea. This makes sense because the parents can now come to the game. And so, I think our guys have gone through so much since 2020, and these guys have returned for us. The least we could do is give them a platform to be recognized correctly. That's the least we could do, is give them a platform to be recognized correctly. So it was a no-brainer for me, especially with not being, in competition for championships. That home game doesn't really matter as much. I think it's more about the kids and the exposure and honoring our seniors and giving our fans an opportunity to see the baseball game, at free leisure. I thought that was important. So, BCSG 360, the Nashville Sounds, in the city of Nashville, they've done a great job at giving, Lane and Tuskegee baseball an opportunity to showcase what we have, because we have some talented young men and some bright programs, and the future is bright for us. And I don't think it's a better way to send our seniors out than this.
And that game will be broadcast right here on the Black College Sports Network. We've been fortunate enough to partner with BCSG 360 and have done, we did the Jack's Diamond Classic and we did the Lone Star Diamond Classic. And now we're doing the Music City Diamond Classic. And when I saw we had the opportunity to do the Music City Diamond Classic, that was the first one that I called my producer and say, I want to be on that game.
That's
I
right.
got to do play-by-play for that one, because as a Tuskegee alum, I'm proud of, don't take this offensive, anybody from Lane, but I won't be biased in my call, but in my heart, we all know who I'm going to be rooting for.
Man, you guys do a great job, by the way. The game in Jacksonville between Edward Waters and who was it? Savannah State. Yeah, it was, man, that broadcast was amazing, and the camera angles, everything, it felt real, and it's what we need for HBCU baseball. So thank you for what you guys do. And I'm looking forward to our guys, putting on a competitive show.
Well, if you could make myself or Brian Fulford call another grand slam shot like that, what we call down in Jacksonville. More power to both you guys' teams.
Absolutely, man. I don't know if we can draw it up that great, man. That was a brilliant finish, but we'll definitely try to get close.
All right. Now, you guys playing in a minor league ballpark, like you said, that was big. But for Tuskegee, this is really not something new. As for, and please tell me, was it 10 years, 12 years, Coach? How many years did you guys play down in Montgomery?
We played for 11 years.
11 years,
yes.
In Montgomery, in a former minor league ballpark. That
Absolutely.
ballpark was home to the Montgomery Wings.
Absolutely.
And they were independent league until the Montgomery Biscuits, who was an affiliate of the Tampa Bay Rays, moved to Montgomery. Absolutely. And built Riverwalk Stadium and moved down there. But the park is still in existence. Patterson Field is still in existence and became the home of Tuskegee baseball, while Tuskegee were undergoing, well, I want to say undergoing renovations at Washington Field on the campus, but it just sat there for probably 10 years until you were finally able to raise the money. So
that's
first of all, talk project. Last year we were supposed to actually debut the opening of Washington Field, but COVID hit less than 10 days before that event was supposed to happen. That's number one. Then number two, the fact that playing in a stadium of that size is not new to you guys. Do you think you guys have an advantage despite the fact that you are technically on the road for this game? So kind of go through that for me.
I wouldn't say advantage because again, Lane College, they now play in the minor league stadium of the Jackson, I think it's the Jackson Generals. There in Jackson, Tennessee. So they have the same experience as well. I wouldn't say it's an upper hand, but I think both teams are gonna come and bring their A games because of the atmosphere. That helps. But our guys, we're used to playing, like you said, at the minor league stadium. But again, we have new guys that may not be used to that. So you know, it's gonna be a mental challenge just to get the guys prepared, not to do too much. That's what we've talked about all week so far. Just don't do too much. Don't let the game come to you, and you know, we'll be where we need to be if we allow the game just to come to us and don't push the issue.
All right. As you know, a lot of people are fans of their team when it comes to HBCU baseball, but don't necessarily know the names behind the logos. So,
absolutely,
Coach, give us a preview of some of the people who we need to be watching out for on the broadcast this Saturday. And that's going to be a single game Saturday, and that's going to be a doubleheader on Sunday. So tell us some of the names. So let's start off with defensively first. Some of the defensive players.
Defensively, you know, my center fielder, Joshua Lewis. He's a great two-way guy, and he's a plus defender. A ball hawk, and he also leads off force. So you know, he's a switch hitting center fielder with plus speed. So he plays the game well. He's a good spark for our team. We go as he goes. So I'm very excited for him to get this opportunity to showcase. So that's a good player to look out for. And then also my catcher, Ronald McGee. He's a great defensive guy. He's getting going, finally starting to get going offensively. So I'm excited about him. And then we have a pitching staff too that really gives us an incredible opportunity. You know, as a whole, we have a couple of starters that are doing well. Savante Williams, Jalen Daniels, Hunter Hudson. So those guys will probably be featured. And then, you know, a couple of bullpen guys as that have had the spotlight over the years that are going out, you know, the right way as a senior. Darian Brown. Most know the story of him. He's had 20 plus surgeries, you know, in his lifetime, osteoporosis, the bone and joint disease, and he's weathered the storm and given us 4 great years. So I'm excited to see him go out on this stage. But as far as offensively, pretty decent, solid lineup. We're gonna do the small things well, you know, nothing overpowering gap to gap team. So I'm excited to see the majority of our guys get the opportunity on this stage and showcase it. You have Caleb Cobb in the lineup who's doing well. You have CJ Stallings from Chicago who's doing well. He's a junior. And then defensively, we have been very sound. So I hope I don't jinx that. We've been very limited and minimal in that error column, and that's helped us to be in position and striking position to win games. So I look to hopefully we can bring it all to Nashville. We can pack it up from Tuskegee and bring it all to Nashville and play the game the right way and put on a good series for the fans that are well deserving.
Now your opponent Lane, what are you looking for from them? Who are some of the play? We know we got to pitch around this guy, or we've got to keep this guy off the base pass, or please don't hit it to this guy right here. He's a human vacuum. Who are some of those guys that you've seen on Lane?
Well, first off, hats off to that coaching staff and Patrick Barbour and what he's done since he's taken over the helm. They've always had athletic and skilled players, but he's done a great job at piecing them together and putting a very competitive product on the field. You have Zach Elias, Travis Brown, who's a speed demon and also a threat in the lineup, and also a pitching threat. And then you also have Chris O'Neill, who's been there doing a wonderful job. You have Melvin. They have a very competitive lineup. So we're going to have to compete with pitches, limit the freebies, and, really go at these guys. So I'm looking forward to the challenge because it's a good ball club we're facing off against, and they're well coached.
All right, Coach Hollins. Any last words you want to get out to everybody? Once you do that, give all those plugs out so that we can get the next great baseball player at Tuskegee. We Tuskegee's always looking for the next Reginald Hollins at Tuskegee.
Hey, I'm just looking forward to the fans and the alumni and of Lane and Tuskegee coming out to this Music City Diamond Classic. This is something that the guys really get to look forward to for going through some of the difficult times. So, we start at 3 p.m. on Saturday. There'll be a single 9, and then we have a double starting at 1 o'clock on Sunday. And it's at First Horizon Ballpark in Nashville, Tennessee. Please visit the website for tickets. We need your support. There are also donor links that, if you can't make it, you can donate to the cause, and it will go to local children that are able to come out to the game. So, this is also a fundraiser for both institutions. So both institutions also have links. So each 50% of the ticket sales go back to both programs, which we know revenue is something we have to generate to keep us going. So please support us. Anyone that's tuning into this video, please support us, and thanks for everything that you help us make possible.
All right. And that's Coach Reginald Hollins. Let me see if I'm going off the dome on this.
Okay.
Is your 3rd or your 4th year as head?
This is actually, I don't know what you call it. It's a 5th official year working, but 4th on the field.
Well, you
because of the COVID.
You still have to consider it. So this is your 5th year as head coach, and this is probably what, year 15 overall for you at Tuskegee?
All right. Well, yeah.
If you count playing, GA, assistant coach.
Yeah, you count that. We're at 16. So 16. I've been here well equipped with the university, and I love it to death. And that's why I'm able to just empty the tank for this program and this institution.
Right. So once again, Coach Reginald Hollins, head baseball coach at Tuskegee, home of the Golden Tigers, as they take on the Lane College Dragons this Saturday and Sunday from Nashville, Tennessee, the Music City Diamond Classic. Coach Hollins, we want to thank you for your time.
No, thank you, Drew. Thank you for all that you guys do, the coverage, the actual footage that you provide, and man, we'll keep trying to give you guys a good product to put out.
All right, we appreciate you, Coach. We'll see you this weekend.
Thanks for your time, man.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Now joining us is going to be Coach Patrick Barbour of the Lane College Dragons. Coach Barbour, how are you doing today? How's everything going? How's the family?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate you joining us. Lane will be taking on Tuskegee this upcoming weekend in a 3-game series in the Music City Diamond Classic to be held in Nashville, Tennessee. All right, Coach. First of all, kind of explain from your point of view, how this game came about. And I'm gonna tell you, when I looked at the original schedule, I just assumed this was a Lane home game since the Classic was being played in Nashville, in Tennessee.
Right.
But then I looked at it, I realized this was a Tuskegee home game. So how the heck did y'all convince them to come to y'all state to do this Classic and, kind of give up a home game?
Sure. Well, it's definitely still their home game. They'll be the home team on the scoreboard, although, Nashville's a little closer to us than Tuskegee. But as far as how it came together, we were going to be playing Tuskegee at their on-campus facility, and the opportunity came up from the promoters, BCSG, to participate in a Classic series and do it at a professional stadium there in Nashville with the Nashville Sounds. And Reggie and I were very intrigued by the opportunity to do that, to have a special event for our players and families, and so right away, both of us, I know I was very interested in participating in that, and so we were able to work out the details and get that series moved from Tuskegee to Nashville.
All right, and Reggie being Coach Reggie Hollins of Tuskegee University, and we just got through talking to Coach Hollins, and he said you guys came up with some creative ideas as far as co-promoting the games, and one of the things you guys are going to do is both of you guys are going to honor your seniors for both teams during this event. Now that's a unique senior day for these guys. So kind of talk about how that came together.
Sure. So we're definitely having senior day. Tuskegee will have Saturday as their senior day. Lane will have Sunday as their senior day. That was really just, both schools were looking for an opportunity to have senior day, and because this is going to be at a public venue, we're able to include families and socially distance because it's a large ballpark. And so it was really kind of best of both worlds, where on-campus facilities are still restricted in many ways, and so it was just an aha moment where we said, hey, let's look at honoring our seniors at this ballpark, because it's gonna allow friends and family to participate and be there, and And that's number one. The senior day really is for the families. And, also we're having our graduation ceremony on Saturday morning. So our players will, that are graduating will be participating in that in Jackson and then coming over to play baseball in Nashville. So Sunday was a better day for us to have our senior day. We're also really excited to honor our 2020 team, which was postseason ranked #1 and small school division champion. We're going to honor that accomplishment from last season and have some of the alums there, as well as honor our teammate, Courtney Joyner, who passed away this summer, who would have been, a key member of this 2021 team. He was a player that was very, very important to us on the field, and most importantly off, was a team leader, really steadied everything that we've done for the past 3 seasons. And, it's a tremendous loss for us personally and as a program. And Sunday we'll be celebrating, Courtney with his family. His family will be in attendance, and we have a couple special things planned for that. So yes, this is just a really big and exciting, fun event for both programs, and certainly for us. We're really looking forward to it.
Now let's kind of talk about how we got here. Obviously, we know that COVID has played havoc on everybody over the past year plus. You guys had basically you were stripped of your season last year, although you were declared small Black college small school champion last year, but it was an abbreviated season. But a championship is a championship, or national championship is a national championship. Whether be it one game, be it 100 games. So you have to take that. But let's just kind of talk about how the offseason changed, and especially fall ball is so big as you prepare for baseball in the regular season. Just kind of talk about those different dynamics.
So I'll start with this. I mean, I realized that the last time that we had our team playing the way we wanted them to play was October of 2019. Because last season, even though, we were able to play 16 games before the season was canceled, we really weren't playing our best baseball at that time. So we didn't really get a chance to see how good we could get, which is kind of a point of emphasis for me as a coach to a player. I tell them, hey, you got to find out how good a ball player you can become. You don't know how good you can be. We didn't find out how good of a team we could be. I was really looking forward to that. We were really ready to start conference play last season and just kind of keep going in the right direction. So obviously that was quite a shock. And then, since then, until January, it was really nothing going on. We were not able to conduct any type of fall practice. I will say this about the guys, which is, most people don't know this about how they responded to it. It was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. But they took it upon themselves to get together, work out, at public parks. They would drive to one park and take some ground balls, and they'd drive to another park and get some swings. And they were doing this every day. And, as far as the team was concerned, we weren't having any workouts or practices because of, the situation with COVID. But these guys just really were on a mission. And it was just really special to watch them, take the initiative and do what they felt like they could do to stay prepared. And, then the new year came around. We're getting ready for the season. We didn't know if we were going to get to have a season, but, we have, even though the conference was chose not to participate in the season, we're still able to have one and move forward and give these guys some closure to their career here at Lane. And that's big. I can't overstate how big that is to a player to be able to have some closure to their playing career. I mean, they put all this time and effort into it, and I'm thrilled that we're able to have a baseball season this year, because many of them, graduated last, academically, they have their degrees, and they chose to come back to honor Courtney, their teammate. And so, we just had a ton invested in giving them that season that they were looking for.
And speaking of closure and SIC not competing or not now sponsoring championships,
right.
BCSG 360 and the and Black College Nines announced last week that they were going to be hosting the Black College World Series, which you guys are in a position to possibly participate in that Black College World Series. Give us your thoughts and opinions on that, and what this would mean in lieu of an opportunity to play for a conference championship if you are selected to go to the Black College World Series.
So, and this is just my opinion as someone, just to give a little bit of my background. I mean, I played and graduated from Kentucky State University. So I played in the SIAC tournament, when I was in school. So, and then to, go on and become a coach, and a long time old gray bearded coach, I've been attached to, around, played in, coached in SIAC tournament since the 90s. So, that's always going to have a special place for me. Having said that, as an HBCU graduate and understanding the history of how rich the history is, it's very critical for this type of event to be available to these players, because it's special. It's meaningful. Like, getting to play in a conference tournament is great. Having a chance to compete for an HBCU championship, to me, it's more special than even a conference championship, which I do have one of those. It's awesome. You get to go to the NCAA tournament, but I see this event as very promising for the future as well. To continue year after year and continue to highlight these athletes, their hard work and their talent. I mean, it's really, there aren't a lot of areas of baseball talent that kind of go under the radar, but this is one of them. It's exciting to see that professional baseball has taken notice, and hopefully they'll become more involved as we move forward as well. So I'm thrilled that this event's even happening.
Yeah. How significant is it that we moved from the mythical national champion to actually crowning a champion on the field? And what I mean by that is who's got the best hitters, who's got the best defense, who's got the best arms, and let's see if somebody could come out that losers bracket and has enough arms to come out that losers bracket to win the championship. How really, for a player and a coach, how much does that really mean to earn it that way?
I think it means everything, because you said it yourself. I mean, it's on the field, it's competition, it's something that you earn and you win out there in the heat of the battle, during the games, versus everybody doesn't play the same schedule. Everybody doesn't play in the same area of the country. These are all things that, contribute to the debate of who has the strongest program. But when you get out there on the field and you play the games, like, there's no debating. Okay, we won or lost, and that's a fact. So it really is taking things to the next level of excitement as far as the player. I mean, the players are very excited about this even being a thing, let alone getting a chance to go out there on the field and prove what they can do and compete for a championship. That's the biggest thing this year. There's no conference championship, but from the moment we got that news, there was talk of there being a Black College championship, and to me, and I told the guys that day, in a team meeting, how special would it be to win the first one? I mean, so motivation has never been a problem for this season because we had a championship to compete for. Getting in the tournament and winning the tournament has always been on the table. So it's really been our saving grace that this is starting up this year, with a lack of a conference championship to compete for. But to me, this is something that can be, year after year, an exciting thing that everybody gets to compete for, because we're a prime example of this. We've underperformed this season so far, but we know that the talent is there to compete with anybody that we play. So it's going to be kind of our saving grace to have a chance to prove it on the field. And we may or may not, but we're going to get a chance to do it. And that's all we can ask for.
Last question on the Black College World Series.
Yeah.
Since this event will occur before both the NCAA Division II selections and before the NAIA national tournament selection, do you think that the winner and the winner from each division, the NAIA division and the NCAA division, may get enough to still get an at-large bid to the national tournament just because of the competition that they will be facing in this type of tournament?
I think that'd be great. I don't know what the criteria necessarily would be on a year like this. I do know that just on the NCAA side, which we're on, they're working with a reduced field. Normally there'd be more teams selected, but they've minimized that this season. And we're not talking about an automatic qualifier like we would be with a conference championship. So I don't know. That's an exciting possibility that they would look at that and say, hey, let's give that some strong consideration. That would be my hope. Now, as far as whether that's going to be enough, I really don't know whether it would be enough, but even if it doesn't, I think this event in and of itself is exciting enough to say, hey, this is the championship we want to win. And if the NCAA extends an invite to the champion of the tournament, the HBCU tournament, that's great. But that's just one of those things that comes to you whether you like it or not. So, but in the future, I think that would be a really legitimate conversation to have where, conference tournament, already we have an automatic qualifier for that. But then, in between the conference tournament and the NCAA tournament, and you have an additional tournament winner, with the HBCU tournament, and they want to take a look at that as being a criteria, I think that would be a great conversation to have.
All right. Now, this weekend, you will be playing in the Music City Diamond Classic there in Nashville, Tennessee.
Right.
A lot of people know the brand, Lane College. They know the logo, the Dragons, but they don't know the players behind the name and the logo. So for the average HBCU baseball fan, tell us some of the names that we need to be looking out for this particular weekend, and make sure you go defensively, who we need to be looking out for, on the base pass, who we need to be looking out for, arms, batting. Kind of give us one or two players in each of those categories, if you would.
Sure. We have a bunch of experienced players that have been there and have competed for, conference championships in the past and have been all conference players for us. I mean, we had 4 players that were on the all conference team the last time we had one in 2019. But just to name some of the names, Zach Elias is having a tremendous season for us. He's graduating on Saturday. He plays shortstop. He's hitting over 400. And he's also led the team in saves for the past 2 seasons. He has a great arm. Just a tremendous athlete. Been, just yesterday fielding some inquiries about him, to play at the next level potentially. So, we have a number of guys that fit that description. Christian Armstrong's having a tremendous season, hitting 400 right now. He plays first base for us. He also does some pitching. Chris O'Neill is our second baseman, who has hit over 30 home runs in his college career. We have Trevez Brown, who has 10 stolen bases right now. If he hasn't taken it yet, he's very close to the career mark as far as stolen bases at Lane College. He's a left-on-left center fielder. Thomas Arias is a strong right-handed pitcher for us, and also a big power bat. Melvin Creighton at third base, an all-conference performer. So we have a number of players that have some accolades in their career and are just kind of getting back into form at this point, 20 games into the season. So I feel like we're about to see their best baseball we've ever seen. So I'm really looking forward to this weekend. We've had a really tremendous 2 weeks of practice, getting ready for this thing, and we're excited.
All right, and your opponent Tuskegee.
Yep.
What? Give us a brief scouting report on them. Who's the person you got? Who's the person you got to pitch around? Who's the person you got to keep off the base pass? Don't hit it to him because he's a human vacuum. Give us an outlook on where you see your opponent at.
Well, Tuskegee, and this has always been the case, and I feel like it sort of comes from the strong football tradition at Tuskegee as well, where the Tuskegee does not stop and they don't go away. They're just a very resilient, competitive, just won't take no for an answer type of ball club. They always have been. And Reggie's an alum of the program. I'm sure that, that just continues to this day in terms of, rich tradition of Tuskegee winning all of those championships back in the day. They will compete until the end. And so I have always had a tremendous amount of respect for the way they play the game, the rich history of winning that runs through that program, specifically their catcher, power bat. We got to watch out for that. They always have a very good pitching staff that has a plan. They do a tremendous job with their pitching and not beating themselves with throwing a lot of strikes, changing speeds. I mean, they have team speed. You really have to control the running game. They've got some power bats that they can throw at you. I mean, they really do have all the elements of a very good team. They won the series against Kentucky State, which is also a very good ball club this season that has experience. So we're going to have our hands full, no question about it. And we understand that we have to bring our A game to have a chance to win the series, which is our goal.
All right. Final thoughts, Coach. Open floor. Anything else you want to get off that I haven't asked you about?
Well, I just, like I said, if anybody's, watching the interview that's on the fence about coming out and watching the baseball this weekend coming up, come on out, grab a ticket. It's going to be a good quality brand of baseball in a great venue, and it's going to mean a ton to both teams. I know our club is like very excited to get out there. It's senior day for both teams. This is kind of a first time I've been a part of an event like this where both teams were having senior day. Both teams were getting out to a professional venue like this that's off campus and out of almost a neutral site type of situation. It's going to be a great event. And I just want to thank everybody who, contributes to this, who is supportive of HBCU baseball, who is just taking a look at this and saying, hey, this is a group of guys that love the game, that are just tremendously deserving of opportunities to play in quality events like this, and encourage you to continue to support it and come out and share the live stream with other people that like baseball. Give them a chance to see this brand of baseball, because it's a very high quality brand of baseball that's a little bit overlooked, in my opinion.
And that live stream will be available right here on the Black College Sports Network, www.mybcsn.net/diamond for this particular event. So, and obviously both universities will have that, as we hope both their SIDs will be putting that out to their fans, and we'll be live streamed on Facebook in addition to being on the website and on the BCSN app. Coach, give them the plugs, tell them where they can find you at if they want to make donations to the university. If they've got that, they got a 6'2" kid who throws 95 with a 12-6 breaking ball, all that good stuff.
Sure. The easiest way to get a hold of me is to just go to Lane's athletic website, golcdragons.com, listed in the staff directory there. Email me. I see those immediately. I do look at everything and do my best to get back in a timely manner, but go check us out on our athletics website. That's where you're going to see all the updates on the team, and it's the best way to reach me as well. So, yeah, golcdragons.com.
All right. Coach Patrick Barbour of the Lane College Dragons. They will be taking on the Golden Tigers of Tuskegee University this Saturday from the Music City Diamond Classic in Nashville, Tennessee. 3-game series, 1 game Saturday, 2 games Sunday. Be there, be square. If you can't be there, tune in, like, subscribe, and share. So, Coach Barbour, thank you once again.
Thanks, AD. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Coach.
All right. Have a good day.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Sugar Chateau Desserts is a specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KeversVoice.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique.
It was a monumental game for A&M and Tampa. It was a monumental game. Somebody had to lose, and thank God it was them this time.
We knew it was going to be a battle. Look at Jake Aves' record. 202 and 36, I think. Some off-the-wall figures.
And nobody would play him because they didn't want to take a chance of getting beat. But the truth of it is,
over 46,000 tickets. Blacks were sitting in the east stands. Whites were sitting in the west stands, and the score wound up 34-28.
The only thing we proved that we wasn't inferior, that we were not inferior, and we were not afraid.
For one night, for 160 minutes, we was better than them.
Hello, welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Brian Fulford here, and it's a pleasure to be joined by Ms. Keisha Kelley of Black College Experience. And Keisha, it's a pleasure to have you on. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I think I'm still coming off of the weekend high, but I'm doing pretty good.
It's a busy weekend. I know you were all over. Felt like the country, all over the South at least. I look at the number of games, and I mean this spring is unprecedentedly busy right now. Just for everyone who, not only just the HBCUs, but even those of us who kind of cover HBCUs.
Correct. It has. It's been one of the busiest. I think it's been busier than it seems like our fall sports. It seems like it's been a busier because you're running back and forth trying to cover. And it seems like even though the weeks aren't different, it just seems like you're trying to cover, and it seems like it's more weeks on the road. So it might be a big game this weekend, and then you might get to skip a weekend or two in the fall. But in the spring, it's like you're going back to back to back with those big games. So it is. And then the thing is that it's not just football. Then you got stuff like combine in there. It's like Senior Bowl. So it's so many things that's plugged into this spring season. We're definitely, and then you're trying to keep the stories going along with that. It's a lot.
Yeah, I got to thinking about it. I think it was last weekend because at one point we had basketball. We were at the end of the basketball season with our teams that were in the tournament.
Correct.
We had football. We had baseball going on. I mean, there was just track and field, softball. I mean, everything was going on. And I don't know about you, but given where we were a year ago at this very time, not knowing what was going on in the world or what was going on with sports, I'm okay with what we've had to deal with this spring. What are your thoughts about this time of year, maybe compared to a year ago?
Honestly, I'm okay with where we are as well. I actually like this spring football and the spring sports, but it kind of gave us a time to breathe, to kind of regroup. And it's kind of like, okay, even though you're busy now, I still don't feel like I'm as busy with the traveling as I was then. And so it's given us some time to, like you said, step back, because you had football going on, you had basketball, you had track and field, you had baseball, all at the same time. So like you said, given where we were a year ago, it's perfect for me, because a year ago we were just hoping by the fall we got to football. That's what we were hoping for a year ago. So yeah.
Right. What do you think, or where do you think schools will be, or maybe I guess a better way of saying it is, what are your thoughts on what are the challenges coming out of this spring as school administrations start dealing with life after COVID, and hopefully we're starting to move forward past it. But what do you think are going to be some of the challenges that schools and even student athletes, I'm sure we all talk to these kids about the past year or maybe even the future. Where do you think the Black colleges and these programs are going to be looking like maybe 2-3 years down the road after this past year?
Well, I do. I call this the trial and error stage. And I think that, one of the main things is we saw so much exposure. We're seeing so much exposure with ESPN. I think all eyes are, being that we're able to play in the spring, all eyes are on HBCUs. I think only one of the things, though, I'm always concerned about is the financial aspect of where it will lead these programs, because you don't have, those games where you have like a Southern and a FAMU, or, you're actually at a certain capacity that you can pay. So you're not operating at a full capacity, then that's money that's left on the table. So my biggest concern is always, the financial part, but I'm always concerned and more so happy, for the aspect of the athletes. Now, the thing is that if you have athletes that didn't get to play, what happens when they graduate? That means that they lost a year. So that's another concern. The only thing is that, just say that you were graduating, you lose that last year of eligibility, like you don't get to play anymore because of graduation and because of COVID. Like, what if you don't get to play anymore? And that's how you end up ending your college career. And so many of those students and student athletes, male and female, they look forward to, that senior year. It's always the trash talk and camaraderie, no matter what it is. So, that would be my concern, is them losing that last year of playing time.
Yeah, and I also think that besides losing it, making that decision to lose it, it'll be interesting to see with the extra year that a lot of schools that the NCAA and the NAIA are giving these schools, how schools manage rosters.
Right.
Because they're not, from my understanding, they're not increasing the number of scholarships.
Correct.
But it's like there's an overload of kids. So it's like, which set of kids lose out? Is it the kids that are there?
Right.
Or is it the kids who are coming in? And,
correct.
I happen to work in a high school setting, and I was telling a young man the other day with a scholarship offer, I said, man, look, if you got a school that likes you and you like that school, you better hurry up and sign.
Right.
You who knows? I mean, there's somebody who may transfer in the portal or put their name in the portal. We see it happening almost every day.
Every day.
And you could lose out on what was a good scholarship because you want to wait to see what your other opportunities. You don't have time to wait to see what other opportunities are.
At this point, you don't. And things are changing. And it's just like I know you saw the movie Draft Day.
Yes.
They're making and I was watching it again last night for like the 100th time. And when he was making the decision and he said, we live in a different world than we did 30 seconds ago. That's exactly how it is. You do not have time to keep making decisions. And I think that's where a lot of athletes go wrong.
Before we get into some of the recent news, I want to kind of go back a little bit and maybe talk a little bit about how you got to where you are today. You're a Southern University grad. Tell me, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about where you're from and how you found your way to Southern.
So I am originally from Huntsville, Alabama. So that means I'm about 10 minutes from Alabama A&M. So Alabama A&M is home for me. I tell people Alabama A&M raised me. Southern University made me. I have a twin sister that graduated from Alabama A&M. And so I say it started with this whole, the Black college or the love for Black college sports or sports in general started somewhere 9th, 10th grade in high school. But the love for Black college sports probably started about 8 years or so ago. But my actual working, I started off working in it was a crowd, game day crowd experience or something like that. And I was working for, at the time it was Huntsville Flight. So it was a National Basketball Developmental League, which of course now is defunct. I worked for them and my job was simply game day interaction. So I was getting the crowd hype, passing out prizes. And I actually enjoyed that. I don't know why, but I enjoyed that. Being in the middle, being in that experience, like I was a part of the team. I really loved it. And so I actually started to get to know some of the players. And one of the players I don't remember, but I remember Mateen Cleaves. It was one of the people I can remember playing on the team at that time. And so it's like we kind of all developed relationships. And from there, after I left there, I did some arena football work. So arena football team was big then, Tennessee Valley Vipers. I kind of watched them, start talking to a guy that played for the Vipers. Then I got season tickets and I was like, well, shoot, I can do this. And so from there, I kind of watched the game, traveled with the team, wrote about the team. And then it just kind of full bloomed into something different. And so in 2011, when I moved to Atlanta, I was on radio for like 2 or 3 weeks. And the radio lost its dial. And I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing sports anymore. I'm doing radio. We're not doing this anymore. I was like, it's not meant to be. And then about 2013, 2014, I came back into sports radio. Someone asked me, and I've been doing like different shows. And around 16 is when I said, okay, I want to do strictly Black college sports, because we were doing segments on just the SWAC, like a 15-minute segment. I would update the world on 15-minute segment. And you can't get Black college sports in 15 minutes, but I tried.
Right.
And so I tried hard. And so SWAC turned into stuff going on in the MEAC. And it was stuff going on. It was like, Keisha, why don't you just do a show? And so the guy said, why don't you do a 2-hour show? I said, listen, 2 hours is too long to be talking on radio. I can give you 1 hour, but I can't give you 2 because you can't keep people's attention for 2 hours.
It's
and
hard.
So, okay. And so after that, we went into that and I was like, and I kind of went back and forth. And then in 2018 or 2000, we're going out 2016 towards that. I bounced back and forth. We were still on internet radio. We were set to go on in May. We went in May. Right in the mix of that, my father was transitioning. So in the middle of his transition, when we were supposed to go live, my father ended up passing away. And so I had to delay the show again. And so after that, we went full force in 2016, and I have not looked back since then. Have not looked back since.
Did you, when you were at Southern, did you do any kind of work with the Southern athletics department or communications departments or anything like that?
I did write for the newspaper. I wrote for the Southern Digest. So I was in journalism. I did write, but as far as athletics, I did no work with athletics. I like none of that. And it's so weird because everybody's like, well, how did you get so ingrained and so immersed in? I did nothing with athletics. I did nothing in communications, nothing of the sort.
I'm just curious because you mentioned being part of the newspaper. What segment did you, what department or what section did you write for with the newspaper?
So I was just like in the general. So it wasn't anything like I wasn't in sports or anything. It was just what's going on around campus. And right. I was excited about writing about that. I was excited about that because kind of like breaking news, because I can still remember writing my first story, and it was students that couldn't get dorms or something like that. And I was so excited because I saw my name and I was like, look, my article's been published. And I was so excited. But I was like, oh, and now every now and then I go back and I Google just to see if I can find it in the archives, just to see if I can find my work. Yes. And that was, like 20 years ago. But I go back and I Google and I find, and I was like, oh, I remember being that freshman writing that story. I do. I still remember that. But no, I wasn't this, oh my God, breaking reporter. No, definitely not.
It's funny you mentioned that. I remember for a moment, I did a little period with the FAMU, which is the Florida A&M's student newspaper. Mm-hmm. And I remember a similar story about students not being able to get dorm rooms. I mean, so I used to always think when I read that story, I'm like, why did y'all wait so long? But anyway, that's another, that was just me. Because the minute I was doing paperwork, man, I was filling that thing out and I was trying to get in a good dorm, the one that had carpet. So I filled that application out real quick.
Correct.
How, in terms of sports, while you were at Southern, I'm trying to think. You finished Southern in 2003, right?
Correct.
So that was, let me see. So you were there towards the end of the Pete Richardson, or was the prime Pete Richardson years?
For me, I would say prime Pete Richardson years. Because it was so much going on. I think that I was probably like on the helm of Quincy Richard and everybody around that time. So like right after Terrence Levy and everybody in that segment. So I would say the prime Pete years, because we were still rocking and rolling, trying to get championships at the time. So yeah, I was there. I always say I'm old Southern. 99 to 03 was my time at Southern University. So I always say we're old Southern, but yeah, definitely at the prime time of Pete, definitely.
And so you spent a lot of time going to different events and games and stuff like that?
I did. Yeah. I did. And so, now, Bryan, you can actually stream games now. Yeah. So when I was at Southern, you had to go. You couldn't stay in the dorm. I don't think you could stay in a dorm. I think they made you go to the games, plus you paid for it. So I think my parents would have appreciated me going anyway, because my dad paid his money. But we literally had to go. And we wanted to go to the games. We wanted to go. People had this whole, come on, now keep in mind, we're 18, 19-year-old kids. So it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm just going to support the football team 100%. It's like, okay, you go and get dressed up. You want to see your friends, your fellowship, and you waiting to have time to leave, to go back to the room, get dressed, so you get ready for the club. But we had to go. And I was a supporter of everything. Yeah. Football, baseball, basketball. We were there supporting every event on campus.
And you weren't on your phone the entire time. Now, I mean, I'm not calling kids out today.
Exactly.
But I know from just the kids that I see, you know, I work at a high school, so I know with just high school kids, they go to the game and everybody's on their phone. You know, so it's like if the action's not moving, they're on their phone. So it's like,
Absolutely.
I don't
Absolutely.
know. Yeah. So no, those were good times. Those were definitely good times.
Definitely.
What was the rivalry like between you and your sisters? Your sister, now you said she went to Alabama A&M. What was she heavy into sports? I mean, when you came home for holidays, what was that like?
And it's so funny. My sister does not care, and I tell people this all the time. My sister does not care about sports. She's oblivious to it. She's like, whatever. The only time is if Southern and A&M are playing, and if Southern loses, I'll tell her, like, listen, my school lost, and she'll laugh, but it's nothing. It's like no big deal to her. She doesn't care. Now it's personal to me because if we win, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to discuss it. I'm going to have all these conversations. But with her, she'll just say, okay. And it's nothing more to it. She doesn't care at all.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm always, I think as I've, especially as I've gotten into talking about games and talking about players, when you start seeing where some of these young men and women are from, I start getting curious about how they found themselves at HBCU.
Right.
For example, I think there's a young man, and we had the pleasure of doing Southern's baseball game at the Lone Star Classic. So I came away really impressed. I mean, I learned, you know, and granted, it's hard to keep up with everything. So I'm being honest. I had very little knowledge of Southern's baseball history, other than, you know, you see the wins and the championships, blah, blah, blah. But you know, there are guys on that roster. I think there's a young man who's from Wisconsin, and we were talking with the coach who had just recently left and is now in the MLB. He was talking about how he recruited the young man, and because you see, he's from somewhere in Wisconsin. I'm from the Midwest, and I know. When I saw that city, I was like, yeah, there's very little HBCU folks there unless his mother, father, grandfather, or somebody in that family tree is an HBCU grad. I bet there may be nobody up in that area who's heard of Southern or an HBCU.
Right.
So it's just like one of those things where I've gotten really interested in how people have found themselves to HBCUs. Because it's like we all have a story. You know, or we have something that sort of influenced us to get us to where we are, no matter whether it's Southern, FAMU, Alabama A&M, and I tell you, it's I may be giving away some, but it'd be a fascinating book. I just gave an idea away for anybody, but it'll be a great coffee table book for
absolutely
somebody. Let me transition over to your the early years of Black college experience, and when you finally decided on the name, which I love, by the way, because it just encompasses what it is. It encompasses what we do and just that thing. I mean, it just is it's a thing in itself. Who were some of the early influences or people who kind of helped you as you were starting to find your way through this sports media, Black college media world?
So it's so funny. Actually, the name came from a younger friend of mine that she did her master's at Southern. Now she's actually getting ready to defend her dissertation this week at the University of Alabama. So I'm proud to say Cam, actually, she was the person that actually gave us the name. And I was like, oh, that sticks. I like that. So she came up with the name. And as far as I say influence, there's another guy that played for Southern that I still go to now. His name is Morrell Carter. We just call him Mo. He's, you know, I can call Mo, talk to Mo, text Mo, whatever it is at any time. And Mo has always been a major influence because not only did he play the game, he's knowledgeable in the game, but you know, I think he got his undergrad in history. So I can always go to Mo and he'll have a list of stats and stuff. And I'm like, I only need one thing, but Morrell will give me everything that I need. And check this out, he sent me something, check this out. And so he has always been one of the most influential people. And it's crazy because when my father passed away, my first tour in a actual studio, television studio, he took me on. So we're in there walking through the studio and I'm looking at pictures. And so I would say that he was probably the biggest influence, I'd say, from back in the day. And then there was one other person named Angela that I always say she gambled on me, because she believed enough in a little girl from Huntsville, Alabama, and believed that a woman needed to make herself known, because it's tough. It's tough being a woman in this industry, trying to prove yourself, trying to get your point out, trying to get your voice heard. And so she did. And another girl, her name was Melnika. She was the one that actually said, okay, we have this going on with the radio. We would love for you to come in. So, it's just probably been 2 or 3 people. And since that time, people start to believe in you after, but those would probably be the 3 main people.
Talk a little bit about that, what you just mentioned about being first off, just being a female in the sports world, sports media world. I've heard different challenges, some disappointing to hear about, but there are definitely some rewarding things that you hear about. And then being an African-American female in this environment, what has been your experiences, or maybe where do you see in just the short time that you've been in the business, or maybe as you talk to some of those folks who have been in it longer, where do you see, or how have you seen things transition, hopefully towards a positive in terms of experiences, opportunities for Black females, for African-American women?
So I always tell people, where there's no opportunities, we create them. We have to, because I'm here in one of the largest markets I would consider. We're here in Atlanta. There are no Black women. There are no faces of Black women in this marketable sports marketable world. And so, if you look at that, you have to be determined to make a change in something. Even being a member of the National Association of Black Journalists is so many different people. You got a whole association of just us. And so you see the things start to transition, but you wonder, when will it change? And so it's hard when you know that you have the credentials, you have the education, you have the skill set, you have the experience, and you're competing with so many other people. And it's not to say that you can't be competitive. It's to say that you have to compete with your counterparts, and why they're getting through the door, and they have less credentials, less experience, less skill set, and you're wondering why, but why they're getting there. On the flip side of being a woman, it's always the constant, I got to argue with the man. You got to prove your point. A male feels like because they're a male that they know more. And that's not always the case. It's not always the case that you know more just because you're a man. And so you're constantly going through that. So now I'm at this point now where I don't even argue. I don't debate. I don't even try to explain to people, hey, I know more. It's like, either you go with it or you don't. If you don't believe it, then I feel like I put in my time, I've done the work, and I'm still doing the work every single day. And I was like, no disrespect to guys, but some of these guys I'm running circles around. It's the honest to God truth. Some of these people I'm running circles around. You can sit back and you can do whatever you do where you are, but I'm actually out here boots to ground doing the work.
Right. No, I appreciate that. No, that's good to know. Definitely. So talking about boots to ground and kind of what's going on currently in our HBCU sports diaspora, as our good friend Dr. Cavill likes to say. Let's start with the combine, because there's a ton of different things we can go here, and I appreciate your time. Let's start with the combine, which I got to say I'm glad that they had it this year, given the fact that it got canceled last year. They had it at UAB, which has a great facility. I guess they have the indoor or the outdoor covered facility. Right. Everything seemed to be top notch. You had all 32 teams there. And what I liked is you had some guys from last year, 2020, who missed out on that opportunity. And then you had some of the guys who did opt to not play in the spring or not go into the fall another year, like Mac McCain, who he could have chosen to go back to A&T for another year. But, I mean, look, my man said he's ready to play. So share with me maybe some takeaways that you had from the combine experience this past weekend, I should say.
So, it's so funny because I was actually the first person there. And so, you know how it is when you get into that camaraderie and guys start talking. And so they were sitting in the lobby. And so with media, we do what we got to do. If you don't have a way, you make a way. No matter where you are, you set up wherever you are. You try to get interviews, you try to get names, pictures, whatever it is, because the time slot was so small. And so the facilities where they were actually, doing their drills and tryouts and workouts and everything they were at UAB, but we were over at the hotel. So we couldn't go on site to the facility. So we had to do all of our interviews and everything over at the hotel. So since I knew I was only going to be there one day, it's like, okay, you got to hit the ground running. So as soon as I got in, got credentials, got everything set up, and she's like, well, the guys are here. You can do whatever. You can just start doing your thing. And I'm grabbing guys one by one. Hey, come on. Hey, come on. You're first. You're second. And guys they're laughing, but once they get the hang of it, they're like, oh, okay, cool. I'm coming. I'm next. Okay. And then of course, guys coming in, they talking, they trash, and hey, I'm the best here, and I'm the best this, and I'm the best that. But what I took away from it, that the most important thing that I took away from it is that all of the guys had so much excitement, and listening to guys say things like, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to get this opportunity again. I couldn't believe it. I was stunned. I'm just going to come. And I asked one guy, said, now that you got the opportunity, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to eat, but I'm going to make sure I get full, is what he said. So, just hearing some of the stories from the guys, you could tell that a lot of them, just some of the numbers, even looking at numbers like, let's see, Hunter registered for Southern University, ran like a 4.44. So, you're looking at numbers like this, and you're talking about a guy that's 6'4", 217 pounds that took a year off. That's still impressive. That's impressive numbers. So, it was just a great time for those guys. Just being down there, being in that atmosphere, I think they really were excited. And I definitely look forward to seeing some of their names on rosters. And I think a lot of them will have a lot of eyeballs on them.
Yeah. What were some of the things that got the guys who had been out for a year? What were some of the things you heard from them about what they were doing to sort of stay busy, stay active? Obviously, without any football or very little football, they couldn't do that. So what kind of any interesting stories or anything that you heard from those guys?
I spent a lot of time with family. A lot of them kept on saying family. And one person said, I spent time with family, but it was time, like it was good, but it was time to get back. And I think that was from Jackson State. He said, I enjoyed it, but it's time to break away. And then of course, other guys are still working out, still doing things. But for the most part, it was, I spent time with family and just trying to come back off of that. Trying to get back into the swing of things and trying to work out. But, some of the guys were just saying, I stayed ready. I stayed prepared. I continue to work out because I knew I still had something left. And just hearing that type of thing, you knew that when they came in, it's like game time. They knew that it was full on competition.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't know, were there any other scouts that, other than the NFL, that were planning to be there? Because obviously I went back and looked at the HBCU Combine website, and they mentioned scouts from the CFL and even the XFL, which will be coming back, I think, in 2022 or 23, sometime like that. Was there any mention of those scouts being on site, or was it just the 32 NFL team?
So from my understanding, just 32, but there was an agent on site that I was talking to that did say that the CFL is also looking for people as well. So even if they aren't on site, I think eyes and ears are open from afar.
Yeah. I saw a tweet that you sent out. It's funny you mentioned that having a conversation with an agent, because I saw a tweet that you sent out that said, now I don't know if this is long range goals, but you said I might want to be a sports agent, or I am going to be a sports agent. Is that something you've given thought to?
Look, I feel like I feel like I'm a celebrity at this point. Like it's like, no, you gotta confirm it. So it absolutely is. So what happened was I actually was going to start this process last year. And so COVID came and COVID shut everything down. And so in the process of that, I went through all these different things. And so now I'm sitting at home, like I don't have anything to really do with my time besides business stuff. So I started the process, and I was just on there just happy. I was like, okay, what can I do? And I was scrolling one day and I see these 2 courses, and one says how to become a sports agent. I was like, there's my sign. There's the sign to get started again. So I enrolled in that course. And the other one was this activism class that they're teaching at Morehouse that Chris Webber was doing. So I took those 2 courses. And so then I said, okay, I'm going to actually start working towards that, that whole thing of becoming a sports agent, which that's absolutely my goal for next year, to take that exam and ace it. So you see, I got a whole year time frame, but I definitely, absolutely.
Nice. How is C-Web as an instructor?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good because he's kind of like on off. He's not as like some of the other courses that I looked at. Like he's not in every segment because of course they introduce so many other people, like Spencer Haywood, Tommy Smith, John Carr. So they introduce so many people, Jamel Hill, and everybody has different segments. But I mean, he does go through there where he's actually doing the interviews with the guys, but it's not like he's in every segment.
Yeah. It kind of leads to my next thought, or my next kind of series of questions I wanted to ask you about professional athletes and their transition into this HBCU sports world. I feel like we're at a very interesting point where I think we as Black college alums, Black college fans, have to be careful not to, we're very protective of our brand, of our product. But at the same time, I think we have to be inclusive about who's coming in, and at the same time not turn our nose up at professional athletes wanting to be a part of this. Although there's some people, and I at times, and maybe one of them, where I kind of say, okay, why do you want to be a part of this? Do you want to work with HBCUs, or do you want to work for HBCUs for the betterment of the colleges and the student athletes? What's your thought on of the professional athlete? What do I want to call it? Maybe the professional athlete surge that we're starting to see, whether it be your Chris Paul, as you mentioned, you have Chris Webber and some other professionals, Deion Sanders. Most recently, you've got Eddie George, potentially, or actually not potentially, will be taking over at Tennessee State. What are your thoughts on professional athletes moving into this HBCU sports space?
So it's a 2 thing. It's also a 2 thing for me. First and foremost, we ask for the exposure. We want the exposure. We get the exposure. Then it's a problem with the exposure. So I'm like, well, do you really want the exposure, or do you not want the exposure? You can't say yes, and then you can't say no. The other part is that, why we're not, you have to give shots to those coaches that have been in the trenches. And that's how I look at the student athletes. We love to get the 4- and 5-star athletes, but we always have to show homage and pay homage to those that considered us first. As long as the focus remains on the student athlete and we don't get away from that, I'm totally fine. I don't care if Barack Obama come coach the team. It's still all about the student athlete. And I love the exposure that's happening, but a lot of people are like, okay, now everybody's running to the SWAC and everybody wants in on the SWAC. We are full. I said, until the commissioner says we're full, you're going to keep accepting what the commissioner says accept. So, I'm just like, I'm all for the exposure. I honestly am.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you. I think the SWAC is moving into this space of, well, put it like this. I felt like outside of the Power Fives, the next conference, or really the next college football entity, really is Black college football.
Correct.
Because of, one, we've got the heritage and the years of playing. Even though when they didn't allow us to compete against other schools, we had the history and the legends
Correct.
of the games. So
Right.
even though we see other FBS and FCS programs, they've only been around for maybe 40, 50 years.
Right.
We've got 2, 3, multi-level generations of alums, that have gone through Southern, FAMU, Grambling, places like this, Jackson State. So it's like, and then our market, we are consumers. So we should naturally be attractive to corporations. We just have to have the right kind of people that's going to get the value out of that,
right.
which I have long felt like we have not gotten the value, because it's sort of like we've been happy to take the little bit of money you give us, but it's like we don't know our own worth. And it's like now we're starting to get to that point where we understand what our worth is. And you know what? If it takes a few professional athletes who have the kind of clout to help push that forward, then so be it.
Listen, if you say that LeBron is coming to my school to coach, we taking that, okay? I don't care if LeBron got 0 years of coaching experience, because that's what we get. That's what we get into next. Or this person doesn't have coaching experience. And excuse me, but a lot of the people that's saying that these people don't have coaching experience don't have coaching or playing experience. So you're just a fan on social media judging another person. But at the same time, I always say, I get it. People give this person a shot, give this person a shot. But the same people that say, oh, you shouldn't go to a Jackson State or a Tennessee State. So then if you get a big caliber name over at a Southern University or a FAMU, are you going to still feel the same way?
Mm-hmm. You're right. Right. And look, when your program is winning, nobody's talking about so-and-so coming into your program.
Nobody. Nobody. They don't care whatsoever. We don't care.
Right. When you notice the names who have gone to programs, their team, they haven't been winning. Honestly, Jackson State wasn't winning at the level that they used to. Tennessee State was not winning at the level they were used to. Morgan State, when Tyrone Wheatley came on, they weren't winning at the level that they were used to. So there's sort of a correlation there. It's like, okay, well, what else? Let's try something new.
Right.
And I guess and just my last thought about Eddie George coming on board, and I don't care if he's going to be the CEO of the program and you're going to have all these other coordinators who you're starting to hear rumors about. I do feel like how we treat our own still matters.
Absolutely.
And initially what kind of rubbed me the wrong way is the reports about how the former coach was, all this news was coming out. Well, the man still was coaching the game, that day. But then you kind of find out through the media reports the next day that it was sort of well known that he had already communicated it to the team on Saturday night. It was a contract renewal issue, so it wasn't like they were really firing him. They were just choosing not to move forward with the contract. So it's always interesting how stuff kind of gets the ball rolling. And that's, from being in that space, I start getting the phone calls like, hey, did Coach Reed get fired? And I said, I'm pretty sure it's just they didn't renew his contract. That's exactly what I said. I'm pretty sure. And I said, we have to be careful as media and people in this working space that we don't spread the rumors. Sure. I said, because if one person assumes that he was fired and you start that conversation, then everybody's going to say the same thing. I said, it's okay. It's totally fine to one, wait, and two, not always have to be the first person to put the story out there. You don't have to be the first person. It's okay to wait for the details. Right. No, that's a great point. Great point. I'm glad to hear you kind of agree with that same thought process. And I had to be very careful to not hit send a few times, because I had to rephrase a few tweets and just be like, okay, wait a minute. How is this actually being done? That's probably what bothered me the most. And I have a sister who's a TSU alum, so I was able to kind of hear what TSU alums were feeling about the whole situation. And they are funny. Look, if you got any friends who are alums, if they've sent you some of the memes that are running through the TSU network, It is hilarious right now. That's all.
On May 1st, I will have a nephew that will be a TSU alum.
Okay.
I have a nephew that will be. So listen, I do. And I did. I think some of my friends that are in Memphis, she was telling me about how haywire and how crazy. She was like, it's a lot of people that even they don't approve of it. I'm just like, oh goodness. You don't approve of it, and then they get out there and start winning, then you're going to be happy.
Exactly. There it is. You haven't been winning in the OVC for like 8 years, haven't been to the playoffs in nearly a decade. And you get there, all of a sudden, we won't be able to talk to y'all because, that aristocratic band stuff, you won't be, you'll be insufferable. We won't even be
right.
able to
Exactly.
Let's move forward to what's going on this week. This week in the SWAC, we've got the Bayou Classic, which is near and dear to your heart. Now that's going to be in Shreveport, Louisiana, right?
Correct.
Whose stadium is that they're playing in?
So we're playing at Independence Stadium in Shreveport. Okay. And it's so funny because actually Southern has played Prairie View in Shreveport before. So it's nothing new to us. And then, of course, it's closer to Grambling. So we're playing in Independence Stadium. But, it's not in Louisiana. It's not in New Orleans, but it still has the feel because, of course, we have another campus there. So we have SUSLA, Southern University Shreveport that's there. So we actually have another school that's there. So I'm going to get by there and check them out. But, we're still looking forward to that. Of course, we're looking for the W, looking for another W to secure. But I think both sides, no matter how Grambling's been playing, they'll always play us hard because it's a rivalry game. So, I don't expect them to give up anything. I don't expect it to be an easy win. I don't expect it to just be like a lopsided game at all because it's still Bayou Classic. It's still a rivalry. And I think both teams will play hard.
Is there any sort of, and I didn't get a chance to catch the SWAC football media thing this morning. This game, most of these games usually determine who plays in the SWAC championship game, or at least that's how it's been for at least the last several years. It looks like if things kind of go the way they're going, this game won't determine, who will be in that game. I mean, it's actually the other game in the West, which is between UAPB and Prairie View that may decide.
Correct.
What's the vibe? What's the vibe regarding that?
So that I did. I was actually on media calls this morning and someone asked about that. And so, with Odoms, it's pretty much we got to get through Bayou Classic. And that's where his mind is. We got to get through Bayou Classic. With Doc Gamble and Pine Bluff, they pretty much hold the keys to their destiny. And so, I can't just props to them because they playing like sound football. Like it's just a totally different football team there, and they really are doing what they're supposed to do. So this would be probably the first time in a long time the Bayou Classic has not determined who goes to the SWAC championship. And so it's as much as I was like, God, this would have been a great year for us. This would have been perfect for Southern, but I just say it wasn't the time. But it's definitely something. I guess I think they just want to get past Bayou Classic and then go with the what if buts and things. And so, I know Prairie View is going to be playing full speed. Pine Bluff is going to try to contain and keep playing full speed. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens this weekend.
And the Magic City Classic is actually going on this week. And I remember at the beginning of the year, actually, when I saw this schedule. Now, we missed out on the first week. I think that whoever the schedulers were put a really nice first week of the schedule together, like a matchup, some of the matchups in week one, but because of COVID and cancellations, it never materialized. But this was always the other week that we were looking at because you're like, oh, you got the Magic City one, you got the Bayou, you got UAPB and Prairie View. It was like, this should be like a triple header day on ESPN. It was like somebody should be playing at noon. Somebody should be playing at 4. Someone should be playing at 7. And just give me an all-day SWAC buffet.
Right.
That's how I kind of thought it should be. But anyway, what are your thoughts on A&M after watching the way that they just especially on the offensive side of the ball, the way they dismantled Jackson State? What are your thoughts on that game?
So Aquil Glass was my Black College Experience Player of the Week. He was the Player of the Week for me. You talk about 440 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns. Like you can't take anything from that. And after after watching that game and just watching how he just, I mean, it's just basically picked apart, and you think about where he's going next and the NFL, like they're talking about him and where he could be, like predictions and like how he will play as a quarterback. Just, I mean, it's, I really would say this weekend, I would probably say Alabama A&M is going to come out on the top. Alabama A&M is going to come out on the top this weekend.
I'm just throwing this out there because it just came to mind. If you're at Quill Glass, now I know he said he's committed to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know all the rules, but I do know there's something about the supplemental draft. If that opportunity presented itself and somebody said, hey, Quill, you could enter the NFL supplemental draft and possibly get drafted instead of maybe going back for his fall season, would you look, you're his agent. If you were his agent, what would you tell him to do? You know, I'm giving you that early shot. If you were somebody advising him, would you say, hey, Quill, look at that opportunity, or not? You might want to come back for the fall and then play it out like in a regular season where everyone's going to get a chance to see you. What would you tell him?
So that's funny because he does have those other opportunities. So what happens is you still have like the possibility of being invited to the Senior Bowl, the HBCU Legacy Bowl. So in my honest opinion, I would definitely play out that senior year. If you think it will be something where, okay, I might get injured or something in the case, and we've seen that he's been healthy. So in this case, I would play out that last year because there's opportunity to get more stats. There's opportunity to be invited to more showcases, bowl games, the possible NFL combine. So I would definitely play that last year. Definitely.
Okay. That's a good, I mean, I probably would advise them the same. I mean, and let, you know, I don't know all the supplemental draft rules.
It's a lot. It's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of
it's
stuff.
A lot of stuff that I'm learning, going through this process of being at, but it's a lot of stuff. It is.
Yeah. And so, I mean, look, with the SWAC moving to 12 teams and just the exposure that's going to blow up this fall, what are your thoughts on the SWAC moving to 12 and becoming in my opinion, the elite FCS conference, even without even being in the playoffs? We don't need the playoffs. The SWAC, and I can say we because, you know, my Rattlers are now part of the SWAC. So, I mean, I can say we.
Welcome to the SWAC.
Thank you. You know, we're excited, but what's your thoughts on the SWAC 12 now?
I'm really excited. And I tell people, I was like, oh my goodness, the Rattlers are the most annoying, trash talking folks. But I'm so excited that FAMU is coming to the conference. I'm so excited that FAMU is actually coming over. And I remember like shortly after we did get a chance to talk to AD Gaucher. And so I think it's a lot of camaraderie. I think everybody knows that this is indeed the mega conference. It's the conference to be in. And so, you know, I pray for the MEAC and whatever it's to become, but I think that, you know, FAMU is it's a storied program. It's a lot of history, some championships. You know, Bethune-Cookman, they don't really say much. They'll pick with FAMU people. They don't really say much. They just kind of like, yeah, we coming. They don't talk a lot of trash. But honestly, to see a conference where you have 12 programs, it speaks volumes for what Black college football is doing. And to say that this conference is getting stronger and stronger, I definitely commend the commissioner because it's getting stronger. And I'm like, wait, we look up and we might have 14. I was like, who we going to be playing against? We're going to be playing against no other conference.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be real fun to cover. Keisha, look, you've been gracious with your time this evening. I've had a blast talking with you. You know, so look, what's next? Well, I mean, obviously you've got the Bayou Classic, but what other maybe big projects or things that are coming up that you want to share or let us know about? Anything that we can help promote for you?
So next that's coming up, most definitely, let's see, June is coming, and I can't believe we're almost going to be gravitating towards May. So in June, actually, there is the Black College Football Hall of Fame that's going on that they actually pushed to June. So I'll probably be at that. And also, I don't know if you know that, you know, Chris Paul is actually having that camp this summer over in Ohio. So I'm supposed to be, over in North Carolina. So I'll probably be at that. And it's actually the same day as the Black College Football Hall of Fame. So I don't know how I'm gonna juggle that, but I know I'll be able to pull off one and come back to the other. So there's probably the next major things that's coming up, but I'm pretty sure something will happen before then. I'm pretty sure it will.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to it. I mean, it's fun to kind of be in this space with folks like you and people who have such a great passion for this. I mean, I enjoy the work you do, and anytime, I see stuff you're doing. And I mean, that's what's fun about right now. I mean, there's so many different people telling so many different stories. It's a great place to be in. And so I'm honored to be working alongside you, even if it's hundreds of miles away, watching you do what you do.
Are you in Florida?
Yeah, I'm in Orlando.
Okay.
Yeah, but my broadcast partner Roy, he's up in Atlanta, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah, anytime we get up that way, I definitely have to make sure to reach out to you.
Please do.
Give the plugs. Let people know where they can find Black College Experience. What's the best way to reach out and to connect with you and find all the things that you're involved in and doing?
So I am Black College EXP on Twitter. I am Black College Experience on Instagram, The Black College Experience on Facebook, and then of course the YouTube will be under Black College Experience as well. The website is www.blackcollegeexperienceinc.com, and that's where you can find us on all of those social media handles.
All right. Look, I know it's a challenge, man. Trying to get all the. I saw you say you had a designer doing some fire graphics that I saw with the play. Look, it's a challenge, isn't it? It's a grind.
It is. It's so she was like, here's a template. Here's the thing. Here's 28 things. I was like, oh, fine. All I got to do is just plug in. So once I just got to plug in stuff, I'm good. All I got to do is just change the pictures. But trying to go in and change pictures and change numbers and remembering that it's not just 2 schools playing this week, but it's 10 schools, and you got to get all of those down to a science. And then you got a story that's coming out that the Black College Football Hall of Fame is sending you. So you're trying to get that out. And you're just like, okay, you're moving in so many different directions. But I enjoy every moment of it, especially when it comes to the student athletes. When they come back and say thank you for everything that you've done, that's when you know that you have done your job.
That's a great feeling. It's a great way. Great thing to hear when you hear that. It kind of makes all these long hours and late nights, early mornings. It makes it worth it a little bit. It's why we do it, because we love sports and we love our HBCUs, and we love the young people that are representing them. So
absolutely.
All right. Well, hey, Keisha Kelley, Black College Experience, thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure talking with you. I will see you somewhere down the road, some games, some event, some media day. We'll chop it up again, I'm sure, down the road. I appreciate your time.
All righty. Good night.
All right. We'll be back right after these words.
But stay hard.